Alright. Okay. So, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Teenage Hurdles, the podcast. My name is Henry, and I am very, very excited for this very episode because I'm joined with someone very special, someone I've looked up to in the past, couple years that I've known him a bit more. He's someone who's extremely funny, confident, charismatic, something that, I very much look up to in him. And not only is he also a rugby beast, someone who's quite known, I think, in this North Shore sphere. A lot of clout. But yeah, no, just recently I've discovered he's also a bloody academic genius. And that's none other than Freddie Harris. Welcome to the show, Freddie.
Thank you for having me, Henry. Excited to be here. And hello to everyone who is watching.
I think this is quite a strange kind of combination. I feel like, I don't know, because I didn't know Freddie until quite recently, and I feel like we've been always in quite separate worlds. But times change and things bring us together.
Oh, look, when you started the podcast, I thought to myself, I have to get on here and I have to say my piece. On here. And, some of the guests you've had are fantastic. I've watched them all.
Oh, thank you.
From Ollie Fed to Max Lee. Love to see it. And, I'm excited to be here.
No, thank you. Yeah, Freddie, when I first, had the podcast up, he came up to me straight away and said, "Oh, yo, Henry, when am I getting on the podcast?" And at first I was just, kind of like bantering with you. I wasn't sure if you were serious or not, but I guess you were very keen.
I'm serious. I'm here. I'm here and I'm game. Joe Rogan fan. Big Joe Rogan fan. And, let's go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you, Freddie, was, just for the past while since I've known you, I've noticed that, damn, you really reached, beyond my expectations of who you are as a person. You were, just from the conversations that I had with you, briefly, you were always very confident and, very funny with everything you say. And also, what blew my mind was last year in year 11, when they were announcing all the awards, they announced your name. And I was like, wow, this guy must have really put in the work and hustled and got to where he was.
Yeah. So. Look, that journey to that, those prizes on speech day, when I started out in year 11, never thought that was going to happen. Never thought. A bit of background from year 7 to 10. Yeah. I was a straight E and D student. Few C's here and there. I didn't cop a single B in year 10 because really I just didn't care at all. Just watched YouTube in class. Didn't really care. Was just living my life. And then in the summer holidays going into year 11, I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to be a professional footy player. That was just not going to happen. So I was thinking, well, I got to make my bread. I got to make my way in the world. So let's treat this year 11 year as a trial year of the HSC. Let's go as hard as possible and see where I'm at. Okay, try all the different strategies, see what works, see what doesn't, and then going into year 12, let's hope I'm prepped enough to cop an okay ATAR and go to a decent university. And I guess the journey was also coupled by, I started taking my medication for ADD. I'm pretty heavily ADD. Mm-hmm. And I started taking my Ritalin, and it just turned me into a different person.
Wow.
There are obvious, and I'll get into it later, there are obvious negatives with taking something like that.
Yeah.
But the transformation was fantastic. I just became so invested. And the fact was I got to pick what I did.
Yeah.
So I got to choose what I did, and I chose everything that I liked. And I just got so heavily invested into it, and I started seeing these results. And the amount of dopamine that would hit me when I saw the paper and the self-esteem, it was quite it was quite amazing. So I sort of became addicted to that.
Wow.
And then over the accumulation of results, and then going into year 11, I saw my name on the prize sheet for academic honors.
Bloody
And I was
amazing.
like, wow. I was telling my friends, I'm an all-star now. I've made the NBA All-Stars of Knox Academics. So how about it?
Bro, hell
And yeah, I was just completely amazed. And I think there's a bit of luck or something, but honestly, it's a great feeling because it set me up. And year 12's going smooth enough where hopefully I'll get a good ATAR, go to a good university and live a nice life.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, so your transformation and the change that you went through, that was something extremely fascinating to me. But before we, dive all into that, can we, get a bit more about you right now, some subjects you're doing, some activities, and what's going on in Freddie's life?
Yeah, so, I mean, as many people know, I play footy, and that's quite a taxing thing. I mean, I know a lot of the boys who play footy really feel it. It's like 6 trainings a week, mornings and afternoons, Jesus. And then you got games. And it really does, it takes the life out of you. And so that consumes a large portion of my life. And as academics has gone on in the year 12 year, I've had to draw back less and less with rugby and how much I concentrate on it, because me having ADD, I find it pretty hard to sort of multitask different goals. I like to sort of hone in on one. So it's meant that sort of footy has drawn back a little, but I'm still training as much.
Yeah.
And then just sort of racing home to get work in. So that's consumed a large portion of my life. But then the rest of it is just, I do cadets as well.
Yeah.
To which I've enjoyed quite a lot, and I never used to. I absolutely used to hate cadets when I was on my juniors promotion course to be from a recruit to a corporal. I decided that I didn't want to do cadets anymore, so I decided to turn up to every roll call in my pajamas and really just try and get home and try and self-sabotage. But the head of cadets, for some reason, saw something in me and was like, "Yeah, we want you to continue," and he ended up promoting me all the way to the top.
Hell yeah.
And so that's something I've continued and now I really enjoy. And then the rest of it's filled with mates and family. I see a lot of my friends all the time, and they're all a great bunch of blokes. I love them. And shout out to them if they're watching this.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Now there's obviously so many defining moments, I think, across your journey that made you flip as a person on, for example, cadets, for example, your studies. So, I mean, I want to swerve it back, I guess, to the early kind of origin story of Freddie. What were you like as, a younger kid, primary school, going to high school, things like that?
Okay, so primary school, I originally came from the UK.
Oh, really?
And I came from a pretty upper class sort of area. So I had a really, really posh accent. And so when I came to Australia, immediately outcasted,
Really?
Who is this kid? Okay.
What year were you?
Year 4 is when I came, and they're just like, who is this kid with the British accent that really likes football? And everyone's like, okay, get a load. And also liked video games.
Yeah.
So I just hung out with 2 mates, and they're still 2 great mates to this day. And then coming into year 7, I started getting pretty big, started playing rugby, and then met a whole different bunch of boys, which are all still my mates to this day. And then year 8 and year 9, I decided I was going to be what we call in Australia an eshay. I decided that was my calling. And complete transparency. So, I decided that's it. I'm a gangster now. A kid from the North Shore sometimes has to be a gangster.
Wait, what year was that?
Year 8.
Year 8, okay.
At the back end of year 8. So I started going, all right, going to wear some TNs now. And this is also, I'm playing club rugby. And a few of the club rugby kids I used to play with, they came from out west. And they actually properly were a bit tough. And I sort of just tried to, I guess, emulate them in a way.
Yeah.
And I had a friend, a few mates from Barker.
Yeah.
And they were, I guess they were also just doing the same thing. And that was sort of just what I did. along with a few mates from Knox, some you'd be very surprised to hear. Some who I probably should never name. But yeah, that's what we did. And then going into year 9, I had an epiphany again that boxing was the thing for me.
Oh, boxing, okay.
Which actually was one of the greatest things to happen to me. I remember watching the Tyson Fury fight.
Oh, let's go.
The first fight. And he had this amazing story coming back from everything. And I was sort of in a bit of a rut because, you know, I was just running a sort of muck. Parents weren't very happy with me at all. And, well, then I thought boxing. Okay, I'm going to really try this. And I just, again, got fixated on it and really just honed in and taught me a lot about discipline.
Wow.
And all those sorts of things. I mean, getting punched in the face is pretty hard to do.
Yeah, 100%.
But if you love it, you love it. And I just loved it for a short period.
Yeah.
So that's where the sort of discipline and humility sort of could stem from. And then leading into year 10, I mean, I wasn't doing so well in footy anymore. Because I don't know. I was getting a bit more lazy. I got a girlfriend for a short period of time, so I dropped boxing. And I sort of just lost my identity a little bit.
Wow.
And that was a bit of a tough stage because, I mean, I wasn't smart and I wasn't just like a footy superstar. I was sort of only known in sort of like a bubble sort of area where it's just like you're known throughout your circles.
Yeah.
And that's sort of it. And you don't want to be that guy that just has nothing else but a reputation attached to him. So then I thought in the holidays leading into year 11, I'm like, all right, you know, F it. Like,
wow.
this is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to go and try and smash it as much as possible. And I had no experience doing anything to do with academics. I had no idea about study techniques, had no idea what to do, but I just gave it some decent thought about how I was going to do it. And what I really thought was teachers are going to be my best friend here. You know, buy into those relationships, take on everything they say, listen to everything, all the advice they have to give, because they are the practitioners. You know, they are the experts.
Yeah.
And especially at a school like Knox, I mean, every bit of my success, I dedicate to Knox as a school. Many other kids are way more unfortunate than I am. And, you know, the HSC in a lot of aspects is a pay-to-win game. I guess you do have to appreciate that sometimes, but that means you have to use the resources as much as possible. And that's what I did. And then it just happened by fortune.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, so when you, drawing back a little bit, so when you first, you know, came from the UK, what do you think really defined you into wanting to, I guess join that eshay clan?
Oh, look, it's just what was in. It was just like the trend in a way. It's just like every boy they want to just break loose. They see this new sort of thing going on. It's just this complete independence, rebellious type phase. I mean, lots of kids go through it, but unfortunately, kids in our year, as Henry and I would know, they went into that phase and just never came out of it. Never came out of it.
It's really sad.
Really sad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I entertained it, is what I'd say. I'd entertained it. But it was just what was new, and it was interesting, and it was, you know, it was different, really. And also being the tough guy, I mean, people fear you, right? Like you know, people all of a sudden give you a lot more respect than you're worth, because they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you all of a sudden just have this huge boosts of ego. It's just like an ego slot machine. And that's really what a big attraction is. I mean, a lot of the reason why a lot of those kids never came out of that phase is because they really just never had any sort of reputation before that. And all of a sudden they became a big dog, or a top boy.
It's like a
but yeah,
it's like a drug that just gives you those hits of
absolutely
ego.
Absolutely. It's just this dopamine, and then as you go on, you get mixed up in drugs, alcohol, those kids, and then, you know, it's a spiral from there, really, because you all of a sudden, I mean, I think Dave said it best. Dave, he was like, you know, a lot of people lose their ambition through things like weed.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and I've seen it, and it just happens.
Yeah.
But those are what you'd call teenage hurdles, Henry. Cheeky name drop, but those are teenage hurdles. Big hurdles. Some people never climb those mountains, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I was thinking about this whole eshay culture just a couple of days ago, like, because, you know, from some of the stuff that happened on, did you see in the Easter show?
Yeah.
I mean, terrible.
Disgraceful.
Yeah.
I mean, a family event.
Yeah.
I mean, also you have to realize that popular culture plays a big part in this.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Top Boy dropped literally 2 weeks before, and everyone's seeing a big man like Sully from Top Boy murking everyone. They're going, oh my god, this guy's amazing, he's living in a penthouse. Deshane's living in a penthouse, and they're all just, you know, killing people or whatever. And so there's just this culture and these fantasies that they sort of romanticize in their minds, and that's what sort of I think also plays into that. So the Easter show thing happened. Some guy thought he was really tough, like he was doing something that he saw in a TV show or heard in a rap song. And apparently it was over, you know, area code beef.
Oh, you know, I saw that on the news article, and I was...
Yeah,
so
area
strange.
code beef. And that's... I mean, unless you're, like, in the loop of, like, drug cartels and things like that, where it's, like you're losing actual money from that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just fake. It's all just... It's nothing... You know, where you live does not dictate whether you should kill someone or not. So that is just straight eshay culture.
Yeah.
That's nothing gangster about that.
Yeah. Like in the photos from those news articles I saw, everyone was just dripped out in, you know, the Nike or Lacoste.
Straight from JD Sport.
Yeah, I know.
Straight from JD Sport.
So,
just buy JD Sport.
Yeah, I was wondering, was that culture there before, like, you know, us going into year 8, year 9?
I mean, definitely, I think it's always...
Yeah.
Well, not always been there, but for example, my brothers, older brothers, they're 27.
Oh, okay.
When I started wearing TNs to our dim sum lunches, they were going, really? This is you now, huh? This is you now. And I was like, yeah, this is me. This is me. So it's definitely there before. I mean, they went to Waverley, which is in the CAS type circles. That's pretty much the toughest school.
Yeah.
And well, really, I think it's always been there. But now it's just getting more and more steam. And a lot of youths get lost to those sorts of things, especially in like lower socioeconomic areas. I mean, because families, not like parents or whatever, but everyone sort of sees it way more present than if you're at Knox, because at Knox, which is our school, it's a lot more, I'd like to say, like aristocratic in a way. Like it's very high end, and the kids that get lost to it, I mean, they're not actually even proper eshays.
No, I agree.
They're just, junkies. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. And before you talked about, for example, Top Boy, sorry. I was talking with Fred, Fred on a while back.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like, I think him saying, groups like 1-4, and what they shared the message of, Brotherhood. Well, yeah, I don't really listen to any of the Aussie 1-4 things like that, but do you think?
Oh, look.
I don't know. Yeah, do they give a positive message?
Oh, look. I mean, those sorts of messages from groups like 1-4 and those sorts, like they're like internationally recognized. Like, you know, those aren't like eshays. They're pretty gangster, right? Like they're pretty gangster.
Yeah.
I mean, ASAP Ferg did a feature with them. Like, you know,
oh really?
He's from like the Bronx.
Yeah.
But those messages of brotherhood and everything, you have to realize that they're Polynesians. So they're very family orientated from the beginning. Yeah. Very family orientated, very community orientated. And many of these groups, music groups from Western Sydney, South Sydney, you got it, like, for example, like the Lebanese, they racism happens, right? Racism, and they stick in communities. And I don't blame them at all. Like, those messages of brotherhood are actually quite positive, in my opinion. And those sorts of lives that they've been caught up in, you know, it's mainly defensive in some respects, right? Because Australia is a racist society. And these groups, you know, although in a life of crime and violence, that is to protect each other. And I honestly don't really blame them. And they're sort of proper sort of gangsters. They're not just eshays who have dropped out of school and decide, I'm just going to be like a net loss to society. These are people that really, really, you know, have struggled and are trying to make ends meet, not in the best means possible. And sure, there is a lot of violence and everything I've talked about. It sort of sounds like I'm contradicting myself. But those messages of brotherhood and family, that is what this stems from in those areas. Yeah.
So for a lot of these boys or girls in our like high-end North Shore area, or even in other areas, this is obviously a huge problem of them just being dragged into this, you know, wanting to be a gangster, wanting to be big kind of culture. But I don't know, how do you think we can really help that problem?
I mean, look, the people that are the proper gangsters have tough upbringings.
Yeah.
Okay, tough upbringings, not a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, you can understand why things like drug dealing would occur.
Okay. Yeah, no. Okay.
Very profitable drug dealing, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand how these things spur. But in terms of our area, my opinion is there's not really much, right? Like in the UK, for instance, there's many stories of kids that have gone to Eton or Harrow, which are the top boarding schools. You know, really rich kids fall off the tracks to drugs or whatever, want to be rebellious. Rebellious teenagers from high income, high net worth families, that's inevitable. It will always happen. It will always happen. I mean, I have a sibling that has gone down that path severely. You know, severely. I have police in my house quite often. And it's just sometimes the way people tick. And you got to sort of realize that mental health 100% is fully in play there. A huge catalyst for things like this. I mean, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, that's where people turn to drugs. They turn to sort of a power trip. They want the power. They want to intimidate people to make themselves feel worthy, to not have that anxiety or depression, or make people feel better about themselves. So, I mean, it's more on a micro level than a macro. It's more, if you can prevent the mental health, I think that would be a big step.
Yeah.
Mental health issues. Yeah.
When you were in that, your little eshay phase, was that something you noticed of the people around you as well? Was that something was displayed?
Not really, because it was just Knox kids just having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
So it was just an experimental thing. The people that continued it, however, you know, it's very easy to see these mental health issues present. You know, they're not doing it for financial means or, you know, safety means. They're purely doing it for some sort of identity. It's sort of like an identity crisis that they had, and now they have to maintain that identity.
Yeah. I think going into these little eshay phases, I think it's quite normal for a lot of kids all throughout in their life. But I guess, like you said, it is extremely dangerous if you don't have the proper guidance and you just get tossed away forever. And yeah, I mean, that's just all about your education, the people around you, your support networks.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I'll speak openly here.
Yeah.
You know, my sibling, he has gone down that path, and my mother has done. I mean, she has the will of like an ox. She is iron-willed to help my younger sibling, and yet, you know, nothing really works, right? So it doesn't. He has had everything at his disposal, but he doesn't want to take those initial steps just yet. And you got to realize you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, Henry. That's really the reality of these issues.
Wow. Yeah. Damn, that's a big line. A big bar you just dropped.
No. Sign me up. And record universal recordings. But no, it is true. It is true. And they're big problems, but mental health is probably the biggest problem. And that's an issue that, you have psychiatrists who give medication, psychologists, all these things, but mental health, like my inspiration, Tyson Fury, it just spawns on people. Tyson Fury is heavyweight champion of the world, and he fell into a 3-year depression.
Wow.
Okay, so you have to put sort of these things in perspective that sometimes it has to come from within. They have to get so low that they just want to come back up and they're reaching to come back up. But until they're at that point where they just are doing anything to get help, you can just be there, you can support, but you can't necessarily force the change.
It always has to come from your personal wants and your personal inner power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk about that kind of drive that came to you, wanting to drop out of that eshay phase, wanting to do something with your life.
Oh, look, I remember
Yeah.
I snuck out one night when I was like 14, 15 years old. And it was at my dad's house. And I just snuck out and I didn't come home. And my dad said, "You're not coming home in the morning. You're not coming home." And I remember I just got on the train and I was thinking, and one of my friends picked me up and we were talking, and I was in bed that day and I thought, I got to make a change. And so that day I saw boxing. I saw the Tyson Fury fight and I was like, damn, this is what I'm going to do. And so I just sort of leapt into it and sort of waved it all goodbye.
Wow.
It was just like that. I mean, that getting kicked out and not seeing my father, because my father and I are extremely close. I was just at lunch with him before this recording. And my father sort of going, "You can't come home, I don't want to see you." That sort of was my rock bottom. But it's all relative, right? I mean, I could have gone way further. I could have become a heroin addict and overdosed 3 times. Okay? And that could have been someone else's rock bottom. But that was mine, and I said, no more.
Wow. And that stepping away from that phase and going into boxing, that all stemmed in the span of like 1 or 2 days.
It actually didn't. Sorry, I probably should have cleared this up a little more. It was about a month later, and my dad wasn't seeing me, wasn't communicating at all.
Wow.
And I remember I got home from a party that someone had, and I was just going, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And I saw the fight, saw Tyson Fury's story. I sort of assimilated with that a little bit. And I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I texted my father that I was going to do this. And that's how we sort of reconnected through boxing. He took me to the gyms and everything, got me signed up, took me to the trainings, talked to my coaches. That's how it all sort of spurred.
Wow. Your father seems like a very great mentor and guider.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He's always been very open in conversations with me. It's where I've become very inquisitive, seeking guidance. I always have lengthy conversations with him, lengthy conversations, talking about all sorts of things, from politics to history to all sorts of things. And that's where he's very much fostered why I've sort of grown in the academic world.
Yeah. So talk me through your journey in boxing. Was boxing something your dad was interested in as well?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I don't know. It was just so new, and there was so much to learn. Like, before you step in a ring, you got to do months of training. You can't just step straight in, and just learning. And the coaches were giving me a lot of confidence. It was a new identity, and I wasn't doing anything with eshays. Wasn't hanging out with any of the wrong crowd anymore. I was just very straight and narrow from then on in, and I was just focusing on boxing. Wow. And when I started getting into the ring, it became a place where you can only focus on that. There's nothing external, because you're focusing on just not getting knocked out, right? And you're just focusing on punching the guy and not getting hit. And it was just this it had like this beauty to it, right?
Yeah.
You're just in this bubble where there's no distractions, and it's a place where you can sort of switch off while you're so switched on. And there was sort of beauty in that, and I really enjoyed that.
And it gave you a lot more catharsis in your own life in balancing
Yeah.
the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very like reflective, so a lot of lessons
That's great.
I took from that, the discipline
Yeah.
and the dedication that you needed to that, and I have applied that throughout my life. But it's also the external influence that I had, such as my mother. As I've said, she's an iron-willed woman. She will not give up, ever. Ever. I would throw in the towels 100 times before my mum would. And so that is also an inspiration to me to always keep going.
Wow.
Always keep moving forward, yes.
Damn, bro. Good man. Yeah, I mean, with boxing and your parents, it's definitely, transpired to all the other aspects that you've been able to succeed in life. And that's something I've grown a lot more, understanding of for the past while. I always thought that for those athletes who do well, stereotypically, they won't be good at the other stuff. They'll be, stupid. They won't know how to balance whatever relationships because that's the only thing they're good at, just throwing a ball, whatever. But I come to realize that those strengthening mindsets that you gain from that sport, you're able to, translate that into all the other aspects in your life. For example, academics and perhaps maybe like relationships and friendships as well.
I mean, absolutely. I think the big thing with some of these, like, as you said, athletes really emerging in year 11, I mean, you saw a few of them. In my opinion, that became evident when there was ranks. So when people started getting ranked, all these athletes in rugby, for instance, you're competing for a jersey all the time. You've been bred to compete, right? That's all you do. You're belting your mates to edge them. Okay. So when ranks came into play, I think most of us were just like, F everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm going to beat you. Okay. Because it's not like you can get the same letter. Okay. It's either you're 1 or you're 2. Okay. As soon as that came into play, I think it changed the game for a lot of people who have been growing up in competitive environments. It lit a fire under a lot of people. But other people shied away from that. Okay. And I think this world is a competitive world. You either, face the fire or run from the fire. And a lot of my mates who have now just sort of shot up out of nowhere, that it all just came down to as soon as there was a number and people started going, what did you get in a test? And you were just like, I am going to beat this guy.
Yeah.
If my life depends on it, I'm going to beat you.
Yeah.
And it also then became personal, right? It became personal. It was like, these people that have, shoved it in my face that I've been stupid for many years.
Wow.
You're getting got. You're getting it on this test. And it's very satisfying to see kids who are just had a lot of hubris and just going, you got 16? Yeah, 18. F you. Alright? Walk away. And there's plenty of kids still like that who just haven't gotten the message that you can't just have this absolute arrogance about you, because it absolutely makes people just want to do better than you. And it's just gonna, like, that was a huge driver for me. I remember when I started getting some year 11 results back in the first test, and people started to ask, what did you get? And I'd say, I got this mark. And like, wow, that's really good for you. And I was like, for you.
Jesus.
For you. They've been dusted ever since, Henry. Dusted. They're out of the radar now.
Holy cow.
When you start hearing things like that, obviously they had the grounds to sort of say that from my year 10 results, but that sort of, condescending behavior lights a fire inside you. And sometimes you've got to make things personal, in my opinion. I make them all the time. I sort of romanticize these conflicts.
Yeah.
And that's a huge driver. When the ATARs come out, I might need X mark to get into a course, but I still want to beat that other bloke.
100%. Yeah.
That's all you want to do. And in every aspect of the academic hierarchy at Knox, those conflicts are happening. And that's what pushes everyone up.
Yeah, 100%. You really got that Michael Jordan Last Dance vibe going, bro.
I mean, look, in saying that as well, like, I am a collaborator.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend JT, shout out JT.
Yeah.
We combine on absolutely everything. We do all the same subjects. We combine on everything. And he shares all the same mentality, the same work ethic. So we halve the work, double the minds.
Wow.
We share complete transparency. And it's worked beautifully. It's worked absolutely beautifully. And he shares the same sort of philosophy where it's these other kids that, you know, have sort of been condescending in the past or whatever. You just really want to just, you know, stuff you, man. Yeah. Like, you really thought you were the man because you're in Da Vinci in year 8. And it's like, you're not all that special. You know, you're still human. And it sounds very, you know, very dude, narcissistic. But it's that, in my opinion, if that's sometimes you have to romanticize your own sort of fantasy.
No, I love that philosophy of having that grit of, you know, yes, screw this guy, screw that guy. I have to beat you because they wronged me in the past. Yeah. Even if it's a small thing and we're told to, you know, just forget about it. But I think those moments are awesome because they light that fire in you.
Yeah, I mean, getting a bad mark in the test. Yeah. You know, it's of course a failure in your own opinion, but I mean, I always let that be a lesson, and it always fires me up for the next semester. If I get a bad mark in one semester, best believe I'm going to come back stronger in the next.
Hell yeah.
Because like you just get fired up. You just get really angry. Not like you're not riding there like sweating in fury, but you sort of just have this chip on your shoulder, and you need a chip on your shoulder. Yeah. I think it was Ollie Sved that said one time, you know, if you're at the top of the mountain, the only way that you can go is down. So always sort of try and be, you know, just always coming up on the mountain, always having that fire to do better and better. Because if you're at the top, you get very complacent.
Do you think that message has always spiraled in your head of, I have to, you know, keep sane, I have to keep working hard?
Yeah. I think I've always had a chip on my shoulder and always have needed an identity. And that's been something that has characterized my life. And also because, like, I mean, members of my family have suffered heavily from things like substance abuse. And I've sort of always thought, like, there will be kids that sort of have, like, a really, like, nice sort of gentle life and complain about very small things. Mm-hmm. And also just have it pretty easy, like they get a lot of tutoring or a lot of this or a lot of that. And I go to Knox. I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say I'm a privileged person. But I also do get angry or not angry, but have just this chip where it's like, I want to do more with less. And seeing, you know, going into an exam where I know that there's possibly been police in my house 2 nights before, or police in my house the night before interviewing me, and still managing to edge the other kid, this very satisfying feeling. And that's something that, like, has just always sort of fired me up and gone, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do more with less. You know, I want to eliminate this kid's excuses. And it's sort of just very, like, bring down to put yourself back up sort of mentality. But I don't know, it's just when you see a lot of kids complaining about factors that have gone on, you sort of go, well, I want to just take everything and do it with sort of all these hurdles and sort of have this come up story. And I don't know, that's sort of what's really been a big driver for me.
So that creating that narrative in your head, and that fascination, that's always something which comes up, you think?
Yeah, like I sort of create a narrative where it's like, if I can do this with these sort of factors, then, like, how good am I? But then things go wrong when it's all right, and that brings me right back down to earth. And I think I've always found it very hard to sort of stay humble in a way. And my mum always tries to bring me back down.
Yeah.
But staying humble is probably also a big thing. Like I said, a chip on your shoulder, staying humble, not being the kid, not being what you wanted to sort of compete against. Don't be the guy that's like, that's a great mark for you. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Okay? If your friend gets a bad mark in a test or has something happen to him, you're there to lift him up. You're there to say, it doesn't actually matter. Try and put in perspective for them. Try and say, you've done, like, this has happened to you before. Give experience, give lessons.
Yeah.
Don't try and push them down. Say, you know, you're effed. You're effed for the year. That's it. Your HSC is done, mate.
Yeah.
That's it for you.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of my mates, he accidentally, it was a business test and he didn't see the back pages. So he dropped like 15 marks in this business test, or 10 marks in this. No, it was 11 marks in the business test out of 40 automatically because he didn't answer those questions. And he's come back this semester and got the highest mark.
Jesus.
Wow. Yeah, and it's just that insane chip on his shoulder that I just absolutely respect 100%. And it was like, good on you. He was the exemplar response for the task.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Props to him. And that's the sort of mentality that I think all my mates brought to him. It was like, it's not game over. Just grind, get fired up, get angry, and just go for it. And he did, and he's halved what his rank was, and he'll halve it again and halve it again. You know, he'll do real well.
Dude,
yeah,
100%. From my experience as well, moments where I've completely been hit down from a test, where I felt like personally I studied a fat ton for, and I just get like a crap result. It fires me up as well. And I wrote in because I try to reflect as well on what I did wrong, what I did good. I wrote down that, you know, I felt this fire, this rage inside me, and I was just telling myself I got to hold on to this, and I did, and then I ended up getting a bomb result in excellent.
Yeah, so, exactly. And I think those who do that, you know, inevitably will probably succeed in life. I mean, you do extension 2 math, right? I mean, I hear it's a dog-eat-dog world up in those classes. Like, you know, kids leading each other in the wrong directions on purpose, sabotage, all these types of rumors have spurred from that. And I mean, shame on those kids, for starters. I mean, if they're listening right now, you know, shame on you. I mean, really? I mean, you cheap Emma. Like, you cheap motherfucker. Like, I'll say it. Yeah. I'll say it. Yeah. Like, cheap. Cheap. But I guess that's what you have to sort of realize is that competitiveness is there. Yeah. And you either rise to it or you crumble under the pressure. I mean, diamonds do form under pressure. That's what I have to say about that. Wow. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, from your experience, do you think, obviously you have that edge of, I want to beat this person, I want to beat that person. And I think, do you think it would have been brought up by, for example, rugby and boxing?
I think it's just natural.
It's just natural, yeah.
I think it's just, some people have it, some people don't, right?
Yeah.
Some people want to, and also with academics, coupled by my medication as well. I mean, if you're struggling in school, my suggestion is, why don't you go get tested for ADD? It changed my life completely. Yeah. And it had some negative side effects. For example, I'll drop 4 kilos in a term from not eating. But every time I'm on my medication, I sort of start thinking about goals, or I start sort of stressing, but a good stress. It's a good stress. It's like, I got to do this today. I got to do that today. I got to do this, this, and this. If I don't do this, then this is going to happen. Whereas if I'm not on my medication, for example, on the holidays, I'm just lazy. I'm like a hippo, you know, unless I'm on my medication. Yeah. And so that for me was the magic pill, was the red pill. Wow. You know? So if you're struggling in school, never think that ADD is some mental sort of deficiency. It's not. I mean, I'm living proof that a lot of kids that would have probably made fun of some kid having ADD, I do better than now. So never have that sort of perspective. I mean, people struggle with all sorts of things and they still do extremely well. So
Yeah, bro. I'm so proud of you for being able to just say that you have these, so openly.
I mean,
Yeah.
ADD, there isn't much of a stigma around it, I don't think,
Yeah.
but some people definitely do. I mean, I've told people before,
Yeah.
I have ADD, and they go, oh, what? What? And it's like I've just said I have, like, I don't know, like cerebral palsy or something. Like, it's like, I just can't believe it. It's like, what do you mean? I'm just that I literally just can't be as attentive. I mean, one of my mates, his brother was very similar to me, extremely ADD. He got a 99.9 when he got on the meds. He got a 99.9. Now he's in the States doing electrical engineering.
Wow.
And I like astrophysics. I mean, extremely intelligible person.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. So go get tested if you if you think you're not doing so well in school, you can't concentrate. Just get on the medication, okay? And people have a negative stigma about medication, like ADD pills. It's like Ritalin or, Vyvanse or whatever medication you might take. They think it's like you're a meth addict or something like that. Yeah. Because the pills actually are an amphetamine. And they think that it's just you're taking drugs the whole day. Yeah. But you're really not. I mean, God, imagine if I went to rehab for taking Ritalin. I mean, what are they going to say? What has been so destructive in your life? Oh, no, I've actually improved in all these areas from it. Yeah. I mean, no one's going to rehab for that. No one, it's only been beneficial.
Yeah. 100%, yeah. So do you think that competitive edge, I was talking with Swari, and what he said was that he didn't really have that competitiveness of, I want to be this guy, I want to be that guy. What he talked about was how he just wanted to live up to his own personal expectations. Do you think that message correlates with you? What do you think?
I mean, look, Henry, going into year 11, my personal expectations was, let's try and hit a 90 for a predicted ATAR. Let's try my best to hit it. And then when I got my predicted ATAR, I was like, frick. Okay, right. So I've exceeded my expectations. Everything now is a bonus. Okay, I've even looked up what degrees I want to do, and I mean, I'm assuming all goes well. I'm going to university, and I'll go to a nice university and get a good degree. Now it's just you need something else. I'm not trying to be a doctor. Okay, and I don't have any inclination to go into law. I think it would be boring. So now it's just a bonus, and it's now sort of like a game. It's like, who can I beat? How far can I go? And who knows how far? Because I tell you what, at the start of year 11, I thought, man, if I make it to the middle of the pack, I will be cheering. I'll be absolutely cheering. If I can just tread water, I'll be so happy. Yeah. And sometimes that's also something you have to give it a go. You never know what you can do. Yeah. You have literally no clue about your own ability. But you have to give it 100%. I mean, so many kids that would be beating me and most people, they just don't put in the time. It becomes a game of effort, which is concurrent throughout your life. Or in my point of view, those who hold their breath the longest win, in my opinion. And well, I think that if anyone listening to this can just go, F it, 2 more terms left, or if you're starting year 11, I got a year left, or year 10, I got X amount of time left, I'm just going to plug away, just going to go my absolute hardest for this period, and let's see what I can do. I guarantee you're going to do a lot better than you ever thought you could. Yeah. Guarantee it.
Yeah, usually when you decide to put in just a small amount of effort, it usually overjump and usually go a lot further than what you initially thought. Yeah.
I mean, people they overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a year. I mean, people who put in a little work normally expect great results because they thought they've done work, but people who do a lot of work often are concerned that they haven't worked hard enough. Yeah. And those are, in my opinion, the winners, the people that are always thinking, I haven't done enough. You have to have that mentality. You've never done enough. You go to bed, you stop finishing studying at 9 p.m. and you've started at 3:30. And you've been studying your brains out for this test day in, day out, and you still go, oh, I don't think I've done enough. That's when you're a winner. That's when you're going to do well.
yeah.
Whereas if you've gone, wow, I've done 3 days of study, 3 days before the test, and go, wow, I should get a 20 out of 20 for this. Don't expect a 20. You have to have that mentality.
Oh, yeah. So, Freddie, I think you just talked we just had a little cut there. I just wanted to check the audio. But can you run me through kind of what a day in the life of Freddie looks like from your studying your rugby?
Okay.
Yeah.
A day in the life. All right. So a typical day normally starts at 5:50 in the morning.
Wow.
Monday through to Friday, because most 2 or 3 of those days will consist of gym at 6:30. You got to get that work in with the boys.
Hell yeah.
Which is a good start to the day.
Yeah.
I mean, people hitting PRs in the gym and everything, it always gets the day off going well. And if I'm not, then I'm in the senior center putting in a bit of work with JT. And then that will consist then around 7:50 breakfast, have a bacon and egg roll from the canteen. Lovely. Lovely. And then classes. In classes, always trying to maximize time there. Although some classes, naturally you can sort of fall into a bit of procrastination sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, assuming classes are all going smoothly, then you either have training in the afternoon, which takes up quite a bit of time. That's like a 2.5 hour affair. Hopefully get home at like 5:30.
How many days a week do you have training?
Two Arvo trainings, 3 Arvo trainings now.
Yeah.
But one is shorter. That ends around 4:45. And then go home, have a shower, and then hit the books till about 9 o'clock. I like to get off at 9.
Yeah.
Have about 50 minutes to watch a show on TV or just go on the phone, have a lie down, and then hit the hay by 9:50 and hopefully fall asleep by about 10 and get 7-8 hours sleep.
Good stuff.
Sleep's important, man.
Yeah.
Like sleep and eating. You got to make sure you're healthy, right? If you're sleep deprived, I mean, how much you can stay focused and how productive you are, your productivity just goes down sort of exponentially. I mean, yeah, I guess in economics, as you'd know, they talk about productivity is how much like is like a finite amount of input, how much you can get as an output, and you got to make sure you're as productive as possible.
Yeah.
Not how many hours, but how much you can do within those hours. That's what I believe in.
And do you reckon when you put pen to paper, they are always extremely top-notch efficient?
I try to be. I mean, sometimes it's just boring work and it's just grueling. But luckily, I quite enjoy all my subjects. The one bit I do hate is just having to commit it to memory.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I enjoy like formulating essays or like formulating concepts or making the notes, sending things in for feedback from teachers, but then going on Anki or things like that and just trying to like route learn it. That's the bit. That's when I'm just hating life, really.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, writing an economics essay, there's things I'd rather do, but it's not the worst thing in the world for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually quite enjoy those sorts of things. I enjoy being in class. I enjoy my day. Yeah.
So you would just put in like 4 or 5 hours just non-stop, or would you have like little breaks in between?
I mean, like,
how did you perfect your study strategies?
I mean, I definitely try and, write down. JT and I actually have an Excel sheet of what we're going to do. And we'll have times where we sit down and combine, times when we just do independent study. And then basically, I try and either lock my phone up for like either like the week or the day or the time I'm studying and just go no phone.
Wow.
Pen to paper, let's just go. And as soon as you get into the flow, you're in the flow. And that's why things like Pomodoro, sometimes I'm a bit skeptical about because when 25 minutes is up or 50 minutes is up and you break that flow, then getting back into it, that's a bit sticky. That's a bit difficult in my opinion.
Yeah.
And having a 5-minute break, you're spending the next 5 minutes when you're studying trying to rev yourself back into it. really,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So try and get into the flow, have dinner. If you're not in the big block, try and, have dinner with your family, have a little laugh. And then that food actually will make me have a good back end to the study as well. I do notice that little pickup in energy. But yeah, sleep is definitely important.
Yeah.
When I'm out of my, what's it called? Your rhythmic, I don't know, your sleep cycle or whatever. I'm crap. I'm crap.
Yeah.
And it's just not effective.
So you're saying around like 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah. So from 5:30 to 9, or if if I'm not training that day, then 4 o'clock till 9.
Wow.
And just go for it.
That's really good. For it.
Try and do. I'd normally try and do a subject or two a night. And my biggest advice is feedback. That's something my results this term were good. They were good, but I think I could have done better had I sent in more feedback. I sent in a lot of feedback for economics and I did well. And for English, same. But for other subjects, didn't do it as much. And you can see where the parallels are in the marks. So, never get arrogant where you think you know what you're doing. Yeah. Because you don't. I mean, the teachers they'd wipe you out of the waters if they wrote an essay. Yeah. So hand in your essays. I mean, I know you, Henry. I mean, we should have the same economics teacher, different classes. She showed a paragraph for you.
Oh, yeah.
For economics.
That was very lucky.
Yeah, no, mate.
Nah,
absolutely
bro,
not. Absolutely not. But I mean, feedback, right?
Yeah,
Surely you agree.
It's good,
It's the go-to. It's the holy grail. Obviously, with things like maths, I know you do 4 units of maths. It's a lot of units. But yeah, things like maths, for instance. I mean, you can sort of get away with no feedback. I assume you'd see the right or wrong.
Yeah, you don't really need feedback.
But for humanities type subjects, that's your bread and butter.
So, could you run me through your subjects again?
So I do economics, business, maths, English, and ancient history. And
you enjoy all of them?
Yeah. I mean, maths sometimes, but English, contrary to a lot of people's opinions, English is quite good because it's not so much the text that you're studying, but the concepts behind it.
I agree, yeah.
And so that, if you delve into those aspects, looking beyond the text and really what its subliminal messaging is, that's when things like that get interesting. And you're like, all right, this is a lot more than just reading about some just linear character plot or arc. Yeah. It actually has a lot of messaging behind you, speaking to those messages. Yeah, I agree. Those is when it gets interesting.
Yeah. I can see myself in a lot of those concepts that we learn. They apply directly to our lives. And we notice those things.
Exactly. There's parallels, and those books are meant to sort of make you think about those parallels and more deeply and introspectively about life. Yeah. And for that, I enjoy it. Economics. I mean, coming into economics in year 11, I was talking to Miss Cow, which is our year coordinator and also an economics teacher at Knox. I have a great relationship with her. And I was just saying, ma'am, I don't know how long I'm going to survive in this. But I just ended up just absolutely just loving economics. Yeah. And it was just a very interesting thing. Same as business and all the subjects I chose. I got very lucky. I just loved them all.
Were you always very curious about these things like English, economics, business?
Yeah. I mean, my family is all sort of in that world. So I've always sort of thought to myself, that's probably the path I'm going down on. Things have, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it quite deeply. But I mean, those things have always naturally interested me. Wow, business has always interested me. Yeah. Same as economics. Although going into economics, I didn't really know what it was.
Yeah, same.
I didn't really know what it was. I just thought, okay, this is probably about money.
Same,
and everyone wants money. So let's do this. But really, I mean, as a lot of people would probably know, economics is a social science. And just seeing it's just how a government sort of persuades people to spend money so people can actually prosper. And it's all really about trying to navigate quality of life. And I think it's quite interesting in that perspective. Just sort of things that don't really impact you on your day-to-day life that you don't notice, that are sort of frameworks moving, and those frameworks over the long run are dictating what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. They applies to so many things that we see firsthand, yeah. But like Miss Cal says, and I mean, you know, when like Horton, genius, when he gave us like a little speech, he talked about how you got to keep up with the economy and read articles, read books. Is that something that you like to do as well?
Yeah, I mean, my family dinner time conversations can actually naturally revolve around those topics as well. I mean, my older brother's girlfriend, she won like awards at UTS for like behavioral economics and things like that. Like like she came first in her course for economics. So, I mean, those sorts of things, obviously for year 12, it's like none of those sort of deeper concepts have any application, but just them talking about it and me sort of applying my knowledge to conversations has helped me. Also, just having a naturally invested interest, seeing on the news. I mean, JT, I remember one time him calling me saying, "Have you checked the ABS? Have you checked the ABS?
Really?
Have you checked it?" I'm like, "No, what the hell? I'm watching TV right now." Well, guess what? The inflation has just spiked again. What? And awesome. I guess that sort of led us just sort of loving it. We just really liked doing it.
Wow.
And it was just really interesting because it was so current. It's like when you're doing something like, for example, business, which, I mean, it's all theory. It's all theoretical. And it's like you can't really see the micro movements of small to medium businesses. Whether it is with economics, we're learning just all this macro type information. You can see it just performing right in front of you. Yeah. And it's quite cool.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I gotta get JT on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
It's like very interesting guy.
No. We were actually listening to this in the car once. That's how this sort of stemmed. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, bro, you and like JT are literally the prime perfect example that all teachers want. For example, Miss Cow, she's like, "Oh, you have to be in love with economics. You gotta, look at the new APS stats. You gotta look at the articles." And, bro, it's bloody amazing that you actually have that genuine passionate interest in what's going on.
Yeah, it's genuine. Like, for example, I'm not like researching, like, for example, with maths, I'm not like researching different like maths concepts all the time. That's not me. It's not me. Yeah. But some people do, and credit to them. But that's sort of what I would like to apply to my life as well. What I'm interested in is what I will do.
Yeah. And you reckon, 100%, that's a road where you want to go down to?
Not particularly, actually. What I really want to do is work in the startup space.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's been my lifelong ambition. I mean, when I was sort of like 9 years old, I remember, or 8 years old, I used to talk with my primary school principal about like making like a company and stuff. And then I made this company when I was about 8 years old called Rocks, spelled ROX. Not a real company, of course, but I made everyone in my year group dig up rocks in the garden beds at school and give them to me. Everyone. It was like 40 kids. And so I got in a bit of trouble. Not really trouble, but they were like, obviously health and safety. You can't just make kids in like 2-degree weather dig up rocks with their freezing hands. But I wasn't being a dictator. They wanted to do it. But then the principal sort of took me under his wing and let me design sort of like this playground, which was pretty cool. And then from that, I mean, I've always just had this really big vested interest in sort of creating a business, but a startup, which is a lot different to just a normal business. Something that's actually going to be significant and make an impact or sort of change a course in how we do, do things in our daily lives. That to me is the be all end all. Like that is 100% what I want to do.
Wow. And does that thought always keep you motivated?
Yeah,
Right.
but I also realize, I mean, what I don't want to do in life is have a linear type life. So I don't want to just go to university, get a job, climb the corporate food chain, retire at 50, 60 years old with a nice big fat pension, a nice house, wife and kids. That's not me. It never has. I want to, do my degree, hop outside, work in a few startups for a few years, and then go out on my own, win, lose, or draw, and just keep going. Just keep on going.
Wow.
And hopefully one day it's just going to hit. But it's an exponential type life, right? But that isn't just one sort of exponential lift. It has fluctuations within that. I mean, my father sort of said to me, normally those people eat, crap for 5 years. And then it hits, or it just may never hit. But I thought to myself, well, if it doesn't, just keep on going, because I might as well try and have a significant life since I only have one, than just settle for average. That's been my philosophy throughout. I want to have a significant life.
Have an impact on the world.
Exactly. Not be famous, but significant. That's been a big thing in my life. And I'm not going to do that by climbing a corporate food chain. I mean, how many Fortune 500 CEOs do you know, Henry? Yeah, tiddly squat. None. Because those people, they've just climbed the food chain their whole lives. Where there is someone like a Musk, not saying I'm ever going to be a Musk.
Maybe.
But maybe, Henry, maybe. But those sorts of people, the Zuckerbergs, they have made a significant impact in our lives. And for that, they will probably be remembered. And that is a very, very cool thought. But you're not going to do that by not taking risk. And people do say, the biggest risk you can take is none at all. So that's my piece.
Oh, jeez, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, I always wanted, I always pictured myself as well, that I wanted something more. I didn't want to just, graduate from high school, go to a uni, just go through the, just sit through the 4 years and just jump into a job I work for the rest of my life. That just seems, you don't want that.
I mean, even I've always thought at uni, I'm going to have a lot of time. I mean, I'm going to probably have a part-time job and an income because, I don't want handouts from my parents my whole life. But I was thinking, in uni, even try and make something small, experiment. I mean, what I want to do as a degree is computer science. That's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
I have a vested interest in doing that. I'm pretty set on it now. And just trying to start something, win, lose, or draw. Just keep pushing. Make the relationships, build the contacts, garner the experience. You do only live once in this life. Just living a normal linear life with no sort of big breaks or hurdles or excitement. I mean, what fun is that?
Yeah.
What life is that to live? That's my opinion.
Do you always have that thought running in your head that I have to improve?
Yeah, improvement, as long as you improve 1% every day, you improve 365% a year.
Yeah, no,
as the old thing goes. But some days you're not going to improve. Some days you're going to improve 10%. It's again, fluctuates.
Yeah.
But the thing with me is experience, okay? Because at the time of this podcast, I'll look back on this in 10 years and go, wow, how wrong was I?
Yeah.
And I always have those moments, 6 months ago, God, how wrong was I?
And
I am wrong right now in aspects. But just having those experiences, getting them under your belt, I'm a hands-on learner.
Yeah.
I'll take someone's word for it, but I have to see for myself.
Yeah. Sorry, jumping a little bit, going back to what you said about, you wanted to have a startup. The main thing that really drew you to me was the fact that you were such a amazing speaker and communicator. And, when I was a lot younger, or even just recently, I always had that philosophy that it's okay if I'm not a perfect speaker, if I'm not that, extroverted because I'll get good grades and that will carry me throughout life. But that's really not the case, because I think although it can reach you to a level of just, working hard and studying just by yourself isolated, if you don't have that ability to communicate, convey a message, storytell, then you won't be able to, make those connections, build those bonds.
Yeah, I mean, it's to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in Australia, and you hear this narrative, this sort of like racist like dogma, that's like what like white parents will tell their white kids, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, those Asians, they don't know how to communicate. We know how to communicate, blah, blah, blah. That's what's going to... I actually don't think that's the case at all. Okay? Sure, you need to be a good communicator to sell a product or, sell yourself. Sure, by all means.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're telling me Mark Zuckerberg, when he was starting out with some baller communicator, I'll laugh you out the door.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
This world is... I mean, for example, the guy who created Ethereum, man, he couldn't sell, he couldn't sell water to a man dying of thirst. Okay? I think his name's Vitaly or something. He's not a great communicator. In the tech world, okay, it's all just based on how much you're worth, really. Like, how good's your product? Is this actually, is there a vision for this? Make a product so good that, it eliminates the need to be this sort of wheeler dealer. Because the wheeler dealers, they make it far, but they don't make it all the way. Okay? And having those interpersonal skills definitely helps, because let's think about how you start a business. You need seed money. You need money, right? And you need to convince people to give you money. But for those who aren't good communicators or have been told that their shortcoming is just that they're just such hard workers and they don't have like a bouquet of, interpersonal skills, it's not the case. I don't think it's the case at all. Okay? Because real bright people that are going to give you what you need to succeed are going to see way past your shortcomings. Okay? People who only highlight people's shortcomings, they themselves aren't really worth that much. Whereas if they see, your strengths, your product strengths, your value, that's where those people flourish. The big thing is the people that work very hard may be considered quite robotic, quite route learning. It's those who are quite conceptual, analytical, very creative. Those are the people that will succeed, not the people who just sort of just rote learn series of information and can just regurgitate. Those who think more broadly and conceptually and see sort of the world as a string, where if you pull one string one way, it's going to reverberate all through this web.
Yeah.
Those sorts of people, they're the winners, not the people who can talk well or blah, blah, blah. I think that's an urban myth.
Or like being able to talk well.
Yeah, it's like, for instance, throughout my life,
yeah,
I've heard over conversations with other parents, other just like, white people, we're just great, sort of like we communicate well, with blah, blah, blah. But it's not really the case, right? What they're trying to compare people to is that, these people have like a larger than life type figure, but really that just means they're wheeler dealers or just like sort of salespeople. It's those who are creative and can create these concepts and imagine these things within that's sort of percolating in their mind and transform that into something that people can interact with and use and can impact people's lives. Those are the winners. Those are winners. If I'm employing people in a company, I'm looking for people like that. Not people who can sell me on a false reality, but people who can actually make the real thing, the real reality. That's what I believe is the winners.
Yeah.
So it's not just binary. It's not just one side are route learning robots. One people are just these charismatic, interpersonal people with sort of airheads.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground where it's just these sort of genius type people who can create things and can also do a bunch of different tasks. They may be interpersonal. They may not be. They may have a great memory. It's all this middle ground. It's not binary. And so those sorts of, those sorts of people, I think that's the person you want to emulate as much as possible.
I think that's the most powerful thing that you can have, being able to communicate and then also have that hard work ethic,
Yeah.
which, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's
yeah.
definitely a best of both worlds, but I mean, we're in a digital age, Henry. Like a digital age. Like you hear it all the time, but like the need for like, you know, these sort of guys in suits who are very good at talking. I mean, it's phasing out and out and out. I mean, God, you literally only have to look at the big spaces in like the crypto market and the people who are creating those. They're not convincing anyone. They're just releasing a product that people like. Okay? But I guess on the contrary, you also have to think about some of the greatest communicators. Steve Jobs. You know, the Jobs of the world, where he would go out on that Apple stage and release these products and people would just be, you know, grasped by that. Sure, Steve Jobs was a magician in that aspect and it served him very well throughout his life. But his counterpart, Bill Gates, mate, he wasn't doing any of that. He wasn't releasing any products. He just sold software and is very good at selling software. He made great software. Steve Jobs, on the other hand, convinced everyone that they needed an iPhone. He said, you know, it's a bicycle for the mind. It's a bicycle for the mind. It's going to revolutionize. It's going to do this and that. People believed, they entertained that fantasy in it. Sort of as a self-fulfilling prophecy from there. So there's all sorts of ways to attack it. Just because you have a weakness doesn't mean that you can't be great. Bill and Steve Jobs. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. You know, age-old tale. Completely different. Completely different.
Wow. Did you just change my whole philosophy on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it's impossible. Okay? Every week there's a new guy with a different story, with people thought that it was impossible and he's done it. He's eliminated that tick from the box. Okay? My biggest concern would be that people who are just academically praised for just being able to remember. And just being able to remember something will, in my opinion, not translate that well into the world.
You got to be able to create your own ideas. Have that broader mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even on like a corporate setting, I mean, every day in a corporate sort of life, you're still having to create things from a pitch deck to this to that.
Yeah.
You're still having to apply yourself. It's all about application. Okay. Never are you just remembering information. You got to make decisions. Your ability to make the decision, that's what's going to count.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, from these aspects that we talked about, they're all extremely important, you know, for a leader, for everyone to look up to. And yeah, that's something that you obviously one day want to pursue.
I mean, look, us going to Knox, we've seen like the whole prefect thing roll out. Okay. And within that, you know, the guys at the top end of the leadership spectrum, definitely leaders, you know, the captains, the vices, you know, real strong leaders, definitely strong leaders. Okay. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Okay. They could lead me into battle blindfolded. Okay. Sure. But also something like people who have, for example, Knox has manufactured, or schools in general have manufactured this prefect leadership role where it's like, you are a leader if you get this. And they also say, you know, you don't have to, you know, you can be a leader without the tie or the pin or the, you know, the title. But a lot of those concepts are formed of just, if you keep yourself within the fold, if you keep yourself within, you know, the road, then you're going to get that tie. That's going to be the reward at the end of the day. You join the extracurriculars, you do this and you do that, you're going to get the black tie. And they've manufactured it that way so people stay within the lines. They do the extracurriculars and everything. It's all sort of manufactured that way, where the accumulation of different things are going to make you a so-called leader. But I mean, God, you have to look at the world. Any major leader is never staying within the tracks. Okay, we're not talking about politicians here, but like, for example, any corporate leader, any person that's emerging. I mean, Elon Musk, how many times does that guy play within the rule book? No, he's doing everything that sort of a business analyst would say not to do. You know, but fortune favors the bold. So stepping outside and going outside the realms of what's comfortable, although you might be punished for it, you also might hit it off. For example, a weird one, me with cadets. And I mean, I've always maintained a philosophy of I'm never gonna compromise myself and what I want to do for someone else's point of view of me. And so that's also why I wouldn't necessarily like to hop into like a corporate setting where I just have to play a game. I have to play a game of tag, or for example at Knox, where you'd have to, join this club or do this thing or do this thing, and all of a sudden you're a leader. Where I know for a fact there are multiple people with those ties on who are not leaders at all. They're just people that have done a bunch of things and they get a tie to sort of sign that off as a sort of recognition stamp. And so for those who aren't getting leadership roles or anything, don't ever be perturbed by that, because the leaders generally aren't those people. Generally. But sure, for example, the school captains, the vices and others are 100% leaders, and they will be leaders in the world. They will be leaders in different aspects of life, and they will continue to do so. But other ones, they're doing it for, not altruistic reasons. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I've realized that leadership is an extremely important skill. And I was talking with my sister's boyfriend, and he was telling me how, in the big world that we have, there's more spaces for leadership than there are actual good leaders. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, from our like Knox perspective, of like a lot of the, quote unquote leaders with the black ties, I guess I do agree that a lot of them aren't that, perfect spec of a leader. There's just kind of like a cutoff where, they have to fill in these spaces, but they don't actually have the ability to guide people and be inspirational, take them onto a road that will like give everyone success.
I mean, yeah. I think in order to be a leader, you gotta lead, Henry. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, how many leaders that are so-called leaders are actually properly leading people and going, let's do this? I think I was doing, so for those who wouldn't know, the Tartan Army is like our school sort of supporter group. So it's like we all go and like barrack for a certain sports team that the school's playing. And we were at the swimming, and I had all these black tie leaders coming up to me and saying, these guys up the back aren't, they're not cheering. I just turned to them and gone, you're the guy with the black tie. You lead them. You should have seen their face. Just dropped. What? Actually got to go and lead? And so off they went. But like, it's just a classic example of like, man, dude, take the initiative. Yeah. Don't tell me your problems, fix them. I mean, that's what you said in your interview, surely. Like, that's what they would have put on their sort of applications. Do it. And that just sort of shows you black and white, who's it, who's not. People that actually go up and do it, which there were, off their own accord, and there's people that do it throughout the school, they're the proper leaders. But also, though, there's some leaders in the so-called school who are not so-called school, just school. That was
tripping.
Just the school. Who like to also just be an exclusive person and think that they are now better because they hold that tie. I remember I was playing. One of the school captain was going, we're going to play cricket with the year 7s at lunch. Do you want to come play? And I'm like, absolutely. I'd love to. I'd love to carve some year 7s up in a bit of cricket. Got hit for about 26s, but it's fine. Yeah. But I remember one kid, won't name him, but he sort of just whispers in the background, I thought this was only for people with a black tie or whatever.
Dude, that's
and it's just like, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're a piece of S. Like piece of S. Like you're a piece of S, mate. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's those sorts of things.
Yeah, no, that really... bro, that really pisses me off as well. When they have a name tag status and they have to flaunt that to show that they're a leader. Yeah. Not actually prove it.
And my mates who are black tie leaders are absolutely humble with it. They really just take it in their stride. They do their due diligence. I mean, upstanding people, and my mates who are there, great leaders, very positive influences, and I back them 100%. They're always looking for extra, and they conduct themselves in a great manner. Whereas in other aspects of the school, I'll just be like, what are you doing? Like, I remember there was someone in my English class, got a black tie on, and he's playing online poker in class. And it's just like, dude, what are you doing? At least do it at home. At least do it at home. Like, come on, man. Get a grip. Get a grip.
Yeah.
And those are shortcomings within the system, but it's like I said, a system that's been manufactured to make you keep inside the lines. And that's something I would not encourage for anyone. Always push the boundaries. See how far you can go. See what's good. See what's not. I mean, unless you go into the deep end and try and learn to swim, you're never gonna get anywhere. In order to learn to swim, go in the deep end. Yeah. That's my take on it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with you, Freddie, like even earlier on in year 7, year 8, where we didn't know each other, you would be just this like figure that would step out of the lines. And sometimes, for example, on like the cadets promotions course, I remember you would just be doing like Fortnite dances on the side, and I was like, dude, this dude just doesn't care. He just just jumps in, not following the lines. And
I mean on cadet camp, I was getting my balls busted by the head. Head of my company. He just couldn't give a bar of it because I just always want to just do something extra. Yeah. And sure, in cadets you do have to try and keep in the lines, but I remember it got so bad that the head had to come see me.
Really?
But again, he was the guy that promoted me, and he said, in life, Fred, a lesson be learned that some guys are just gonna want to just keep you inside the lines as much as possible. Wow. And some others like me just want to see you flourish by seeing how far you can go. Wow. And, so we sort of recognized that in each other, and he said to me, look, for this, just try and keep in as much as possible. But I mean, seriously, Henry, this guy, I remember I hit a cricket ball about 5 meters too far, and this guy was like, why'd you hit it that far? And I was like, dude, it's a full toss. It has to go for 6. It has to go for 6, mate. Like, it's just how the game works. And it's like, mate, that's just going to happen all your life, and you just have to realize you have to pick your mates, right? Or pick the people that are going to take you under their wing. You got to recognize who your allies are. For example, the year coordinator, Miss Cal, has always backed me as a person, and for that, I can't thank her enough. Always has had my back, and she's had everyone in the year's back, really. She's been an absolute superstar. And that sort of character, that's what you always want in a job or in your life, but you're never always going to get. Sometimes you're going to get the guy on cadet camp who's just going to want to see everyone be a robot. And I don't believe in robots, okay? I believe in, creative people or thinkers or doers or people just want to push, see how far you can go. Yeah. And, I mean, that's the sort of culture that I want to see envelop. And it's the way Knox is changing. Knox is being more and more, I mean, think about 30 years ago. You see some of the older teachers who are still sort of hanging on to those sorts of philosophies, whereas new and up and coming teachers are way different. They're very much more creative and spontaneous, and they want to see more and more critical thinking, those sorts of things. That's the way education's rolling, and I'm so happy to see it. Yeah. And Knox has embraced that so much. Is why it's such a successful school. But people do need to take note of that. They do. And take initiative, be creative. That's what I've got to say about that.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously you don't really like playing by the rules, but you as a leader, for example, from your experience in cadets, do you like to discipline people? Like keep them in line? Or do you just let them, fly loose?
I mean, I like to make sure they're not, for example, just outright just breaking rules. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, you got to keep within, the fabric. Okay? You got to keep within the fabric of what you're doing. But in terms of just wanting to do sort of extra stuff or just do more, mate, go for it. And the thing with my platoon was that I really said was no matter how much myself or we get battered or bruised or, dissed, we always just keep it together within ourselves, and we take pride in who we are as a platoon and our identity as that. And they all just sort of bought into that. And so whatever I did or someone else did, we would all back and we would follow on from those sort of small displays of leadership. For example, we were building like a hut, and someone said they thought leaves were a good sort of roofing. Everyone get the leaves. Everyone do this. Everyone buying into everyone on what they do.
Wow.
And that's sort of a culture that I liked and I was happy to see. And then when I was, for example, getting my balls busted by this guy, my platoon would rally behind me. Or when someone else would act up, we would rally behind him. Not to say, screw them, but just not sort of isolate them. I thought that was quite a beautiful thing to see on camp, and I was quite happy with the culture we sort of created. But I do want to say what I think leadership really is, what you differentiate from a boss. A boss tells people what activities to do. A leader creates a culture where people know what they have to do before it's said. And I think that is really the essence of leadership, creating a culture where people know what they're doing before they have to be told.
Yeah.
And that is really true leadership.
Yeah. And I think also, I love the fact that you brought up this idea of a boss versus a leader.
Yeah.
I think a leader, being a good one, is one that makes the people, beneath them, actually also agree with the leader's views and opinions. They have to have the same goals and aspirations. If, the people who you're meant to lead completely just disagree with you, and all you do is just chuck out commands here and there, it's just obviously not a great leading system.
People don't respond to that.
Yeah.
They don't respond to that. And that's where you see, when you really think about it, that was the downfall of Steve Jobs in his original days at Apple. I mean, Steve Jobs was just this really commanding type leader or boss.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, it was sort of tyrannical. So the board kicked him out. They said, you're more of a loss. And obviously they were wrong for doing that because of Steve's just creative sort of genius or larger than life personality. But he came back a much more well-rounded and sharpened tool where he didn't micromanage and he let people sort of flourish in their own spaces. And that was a big change for Jobs. And that's what people should sort of recognize, that micromanaging, that's going to create friction. It's going to create heat. It's going to create tension. And that's never going to be the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in our schooling system, for example, or with our cadets, that system of, these kids have to do exactly what they're told, isn't very good.
I mean, I never never positively responded to that. I mean, still to this day, that's one thing that I just can't do with cadets. But, I mean, for example, from a military standpoint, although we are not in the military as cadets, we are cadets. From a military standpoint, which is what the model is based off, I mean, if you're not doing exactly what you're told, you're dying. Life and death scenarios. Yeah. So that's why I have a little bit of leeway with cadets. It's like, okay, you do need to do what you're told because you're literally playing with fire here.
Yeah.
Okay. But for example, within a school setting, not allowing kids to express themselves is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous system. I think Albert Einstein said if you tell a fish to climb a tree, it will never be heralded as a genius. So, I mean, you do have to always look for the positives within people if you're ever deciding who you want to, be, for example, a partner in a business or whoever you want to employ, take under your wing. You want them to take you under their wing. You do just have to have that. Do they recognize your faults or do they or your shortcomings, or do they recognize where you're strong and where you can flourish? So always be analytical of that. Yeah, I do agree with the fact that you got to have, personally, I think you need to have some sort of discipline for a system to function well. But I guess from what you've said, allowing them to actually express their own, opinions, letting them to do what they value the most, what they're the most best at, that's bloody important. Yeah. For being a leader. I mean, look, I think in my opinion, within discipline,
Yeah.
that allows you to be free. It allows you to be, if you are disciplined, you can be free. Whereas if you're not disciplined, it's chaos. Your freedom is chaos. It's just all over the place. Where if you're disciplined, you can express yourself without it just getting completely disorganized. You're not in shambles.
Yeah.
So you need to have that sort of framework, that fabric of just discipline before you can sort of express yourself.
Yeah.
And that is something also people have to realize. I mean, you can see these guys that go, oh, you know, I'm this creative guru guy, but they're really just a guy with sort of frizzy hair. Like they're just like all over the place. They stink.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do the basics and then come back and try and sort of flourish. And that's what school absolutely teaches you. Discipline, discipline, discipline. I mean, you only succeed in the Australian educational system if you have the will. You need the will to win. And that is probably, well, not probably, it is the most determining factor in life, is how much will do you have? How long can you hold your breath? Okay, those who don't have the fight, the burn, the desire, I mean, no matter how freaking smart you are, you're just going to end up a potato. You got to have the will.
Yeah. This is a bit of a weird question, but, you know, when you have like kids, how do you think you will raise them? Will you let them flourish, or do you think you would just go full discipline?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I've almost sort of said to myself, I don't even want kids, but in the advent that I would have children, look, I'll be honest, I don't really know. Like, how could I know? I haven't been there. I haven't experienced what it is. I mean, because I have a sibling that suffers greatly with mental health, drug abuse, all these sorts of problems. And, you know, it sort of puts it in perspective where it's like, what is the correct parenting strategy? Is there a correct one? My mum and my father were very hands off with me. I mean, I don't think they've ever told me to study in my life. In my life, they've never told me, Fred, you know, put your head down and study. They sort of just said he's going to do it on his own, he'll come into his own way, and just sort of take a back seat and sort of give guidance, but not instruct, and let him experience it for himself. And I think that's worked great for me, but it's worked pretty poorly for other siblings. I mean, I've got a lot of siblings. I've got 8.
Wow.
It's worked poorly for some, great for others. So it's hard to have the magic recipe, mate. It's hard to have the magic recipe. And I think you just got to experience it to know it.
In the past couple of years, I felt a little bit of regret that my mom didn't push me hard enough in my early years to study, go to tutoring, like all the other Asian kids. You know, all throughout the school. But now looking back, you know, I think I might be kind of thankful, because it actually, I feel like it gives you more of it gives the kid more creativity, letting themselves to flourish and find their own passions and interests.
And it lets them sort of say, I want to do this. They need to want to do it. And if someone's always forcing you to do it, you never sort of think, do I want to do this? Whereas I know I want to do this. Right. And also doing earlier tutoring and everything, it's so inconsequential. I mean, so many kids that have been busting their guts since kindy or whatever, you know, like, they're okay students now. They're okay. That's what I think I attribute a lot of my success to, is I knew when the time was to go. I knew that year 11 was the year to just go as hard as you can. I've been lounging about all my life. Now it's time to go and see how far I can go. And it just meant I had all this steam, all this excitement, this new venture. I was just ready. I was just ready to go. And I think talking to a lot of people who were doing all that studying way back in the day, they sort of had this anxiety where if they didn't have the foundation, they weren't going to do well in the final years.
No, I feel that as well with myself.
And so I think I'm the living proof that you never did need a framework. You never did. Like, I think it would have taken me a month to sort of piece together exactly how to study, exactly what schedule.
1 month.
Like, just that's how you do it. This is how you're going to do it. and just throw yourself into it. You don't need this crazy foundation of years of experience of learning to be able to beat the kid next to you. Okay, you only need to have the desire. Okay, because everything you learn in year 11 and 12 is completely different to what you've learned previously, apart from something like maths. If you're going to want to do well in maths, yes, you do need to put the time in beforehand. You do need to put those earlier years in, because maths does require a strong foundation. Whereas with something like business, I mean, Jesus Christ, no one's ever learned business before.
Yeah.
Same with economics. Okay, ancient history, sort of the same. English, believe it or not, I mean, I never listened to a word in English. And then I think the first assessment, I was like, ranked like 30 out of 400 kids. Like the first ever English assessment I've ever popped. It's just because I handed in a bunch of essays. I was just like, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? That's how you do it. Go into it, do it.
Yeah.
Get the mark. Okay. All these kids that have been busting their gut for English for many years haven't necessarily, it hasn't transpired into just immediate success.
Yeah.
You still have time to learn the modules.
Yeah.
Okay. Because everyone's learning it for the first time. You have to realize that. And just having that perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, for those who might be listening, you're going to do a module next term, and that module is going to be completely new for everyone, and you're on a level playing field immediately. Everyone's the same. You're learning at exactly the same time. No one's getting ahead. Okay, so you're ready to go. Okay, so you're competing month to month, week to week, and you're all equals. That's what I think.
Yeah. But do you believe that you have like a natural gift in learning, or English, for example?
I think now looking a little bit, I'd say a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I've seen other kids sort of try and fail and get very disheartened. For example, like I've just seen other kids like sort of see what myself or others have been able to sort of manufacture within a few months, and sort of tried to replicate that, and may still be achieving great results, great leaps forward, but just be a little bit disheartened.
Yeah.
So for that, I think first, I actually wouldn't say it's like natural intelligence, but just more thinking about how to, for example, answer questions or how to study effectively. Sort of the behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
The behind the scenes work in sort of understanding it's a test and how to sort of translate my mind into that test as best as possible.
Yeah.
Having more time allocated to thinking about that, I think, was probably the differentiator, rather than just, okay, I'm going to make flashcards and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It's not all that. It's a lot of micro that goes into it, in my opinion.
Yeah. But honestly, you did actually work very hard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And some kids I'm seeing working very hard, harder than I am, achieving amazing things better than I am. And I'm like, fantastic. And it's just proving to everyone, especially people within sort of my group who may have not taken to academics as much earlier on, seeing these great results coming through, they're going, damn, hard work translates to success. And having that sort of relationship stamped in now will serve them very well throughout their life.
Do you ever feel yourself getting lazy though? Or do you feel like that fire has always been?
Absolutely. But I sort of always reflect upon myself and go, I have been lazy. I've got to pick up the pace. But sometimes it is hard to find motivation, especially when you've done well on a subject, I feel. Contrary to, like, you go, wow, I'm sweet for this.
Yeah.
And then, boom, big shock comes next test.
Yeah.
Big shock. Woof.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just having that sort of humility to go, okay, I need to keep going. It's only this much longer. That's as hard as it is. You just got to do it. And I think I'm sort of blessed with, like I said, my Ritalin. It just keeps me motivated. Just keeps me going. Keeps me chowing.
Do you feel a big drive after taking it?
Absolutely. I mean, it sort of awakens my mind because without it, I'm just this sort of lethargic, lazy person because of the ADD, and I just can never really focus on one thing. I'm just sort of bubbling around.
Yeah.
When I'm taking it, however, I'm, very switched on.
That's awesome. Yeah. I always just get into a rut when I don't have everything in my life, like, all my distractions tuned off,
Yeah.
I just I just get lost in scrolling through social media,
Yeah.
or just like waking up very late, sleeping late.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, bro, that sucks for me. Like I'm trying to, I don't know, grasp onto how to do it.
Same for me.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is like, I remember I tried it at the start of the term, and for some reason I didn't really continue it, but I 100% should have, and I will next term. Is I give my mum my phone at the start of the week.
Wow.
Take it, give it to me on Friday.
Hell yeah.
And it's just boom.
Yeah.
Again, it's just got all this time. I got, for example, a few contacts and whatever on my iPad for messaging.
Yeah.
So I got all my main communications open,
Mm.
and it's like, you know, Snapchat or whatever. You know, if you're talking to a girl or whatever, they can wait. I mean, geez, do you really think this chick's gonna turn you into a millionaire? Like, make your money first.
Money over women.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah. I found as well, like, literally, I mean, there's not really any reason to message anyone.
No.
Yeah, it's
Like it's pointless. And TikTok, I mean, God, for a guy with ADD, oh my God, a dopamine slot machine. 15-second engaging clips on repeat. You're kidding. Okay, you spend hours on that app if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my advice is, you know, stomach it, man. Be a man. Shovel snow. Like, put your phone away. Put it for a period of time. You're going to be way more attentive without it. Way more attentive. I just got to put it in perspective. ATAR, despite what people say, it is sort of a be-all and end-all game. Like, if you get a good ATAR, you are jump-starting life. You're jump-starting it. There are definitely other pathways around it, but damn, man.
Yeah.
Get stuck in. Get that degree.
Yeah.
Okay? Get that degree. Get a good first job. Get your life moving.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, take care of yourself. You'll look very macro.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about.
So have you already basically permanently thrown away those distractions in your life? Or do you think they still play a part when you feel like it?
Oh, look, 100%. I mean, in the holidays at the moment, study's been painful because I have my phone on me. And it's because like I'm going out, you know, seeing mates, going out at night, whatever. And so I am on my phone because I need to like know, literally, what's the go? Like, am I doing something?
Yeah.
In an hour?
Yeah.
And so that's just like almost a disaster.
Yeah.
But during term time, it's like, all right, I'm putting on my suit and tie for school. Like, I don't really care. My mates are going to tell me at school if there's something on a weekend or there's something on this day or like.
Nice.
So those networks are already established.
Yeah.
In the holidays, a bit different, and you know that's rough. But for example, when we go on StuVac, prior to trials, prior to the HSC, the phone will be gone. And I think, why not, dude? You've got like 6 more months of HSC. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it, man. Like, eliminate the distractions as much as possible. And we're in such a consumer-based world where there's distractions everywhere. Everything is designed to distract you from, I don't know, the existential dread of your life. But yeah, I mean, that's my take.
Yeah. So another thing that I struggle with is being able to balance going out and having fun and then also just putting my focus in and doing work. Like during my trial period or like the yearlies last year, I basically just threw away everything, which, you know, I should, and just directly focused on my studies. But, you know, reading articles, reading books, they talk about how, well, in college, you should not kind of directly, you know, only dedicate yourself to studies or only dedicate yourself to fun. You should have both. Have periods where you go out and have fun and have periods where you know, properly study.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at a term, you most often are going to have an assessment block, a big block of weeks. Within that block, you're not going out. You're not going out and having as much fun. Okay, you're really going to, you know, bite the bullet, shovel snow, like just toughen up, get through it. Before that, I like to blow off steam on weekends, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, have fun, enjoy my life a little, you know, see sort of, you know, the color to life a bit.
Wow.
But then in the block, it's like, just grind.
Time to work.
Just do it. And it's become, I sort of have noticed that it's now sort of the case with all my friends as well. So we're all on the same page.
So good.
It's like we all just sort of go underground and work for those blocks, and it sucks and people hate it, but you just got to do it. just toughen up at that point. And that's what I have to say about the HSC. It's who can hold their breath for the longest, right? Who can make as much sacrifices as possible? Okay, who can take almost like the most enjoyment out of their life for this short period and then get the mark and then bolster themselves forward in life. Those sacrifices are always going to pay off. However, there are kids in our school who just think, going out, are you serious? Ever? Like, I'm living proof that you can go out and have as much fun as you want. Okay, like my life is fun. I love having fun. Okay, I still do well in school, I think. Like, I think it's all right to say that. Like, I do well, and that balance, I wouldn't say it's key, but it's something I value. It's something I deeply value.
And since becoming dedicated to your studies, do you feel like you're missing anything? You're missing out on going out and having fun?
Not really, because the kids that are doing that, like, you know, some of the kids that will be doing that, and their marks are like not good at all. I'm just going like, man, I hope, you know, in life it's going to turn out all right for you. But some of those kids aren't even built to do trades. You know, tradesmen, go for it. If you're going to do a trade, probably going to be richer than I am. Okay? Never underestimate that. Okay? Some builders are wealthy men and women. Yeah. However, some kids who are just clueless in life, sort of floating through the ether, and going out on weekends and having fun, not taking any time for their studies, have no real ambitions. I mean, dude, this is your peak. Okay, enjoy it while you can, because it's not going to go that much more up from here. Okay, like you gotta, like, if you're not doing, this is the point, 16, 17, 18, where you're really going, what direction is my life going to take? You got to make that decision, and you got to make it like now. It's probably too late now. Probably would have had to have it. Like, not to alarm anyone here listening. Of course, there are always alternate pathways, but I mean, you don't want to be stuck in that place where, you know, you're just blowing it all now. So am I thinking I'm missing out? Sure, maybe in the short run, maybe one night, but Jesus, man, would I rather have a nice, you know, successful life than party at the minute? Sure. But in saying that, I mean, I do have fun outside of those blocks. Yeah. I'm sacrificing such a short thing. And yeah.
Like a lot of my friends, that, you know, I'm telling them to go out in the holidays, whatever, to the beach, whatever, and they're saying, no, bro, I gotta study. And it's just one day, and I'm like, bro, we're never gonna have an experience of being 17, 18 at Knox again. Yeah. And once we leave, then that's it. Then we're never gonna have these experiences again.
Exactly, man. I mean, dude, like, what are you trying to be? Like, what degree are you trying to ascertain right now? Like, geez, I think it was like, a kid last year, Sam Bennett, genius. He got a 99.9. Okay, he was hitting the dance floor in his in his HSC year. Okay, he was on the dance floor. Yeah. Okay, he was having a good time. Yeah. Same with a bunch of other kids. Okay, these kids that are grinding in the holidays and not living life. I mean, man, I'd hate to be ya. I'd hate to be ya. Even if you got a 99.95, hate to be ya. Because sure, if I was sacrificing weekends in my early 20s when starting up a startup, sure. I think that 100%, having that larger goal to do that, sure. But where my life is sitting right now, there's no need. Yeah. There's no need to, for example, not go to the beach on a day out. Like, come on, man. Live a little. Yeah. Live a little. I mean, like, for example, there's 18ths going around. People are turning 18 for the first time. Like, if you're 18, go and have a beer. Go and have a beer, man. You're of legal age. Have a little fun. Put a smile on your face.
Yeah. And yes, I was reading a book. I think it was called How to Become an A Student. It was just about experiences in college, how to, you know, achieve greatness. And what he talked about, Cal Newport, he said he noticed that the best students were the ones who actually went and had fun.
Yeah.
And, well, you're bloody the perfect case of that.
I mean, also, you talk about like these people that like long for interpersonal skills or communicative skills. Where do you think you're getting them, bro? Where do you think you're getting them? You're getting them from not staring at the book for your whole entire life. Okay? You're going out by actually experiencing. Also, when you're going out and meeting people, God, you're actually meeting people. That's part of it, right? You're meeting people. You know, people always talk about building connections. You're building connections not by going on some drunken rampage through, you know, Oxford Street on a night out, but more or less so, you're doing it through just getting out, having fun, going to the beach, going to this place, going to that place, meeting new people, making new friends. You're making a friend that might benefit you one day. You're communicating with them. You're selling yourself basically to say, do you want to be friends in a way? And those relationships that you're building are crucial to your life. Yeah. They're crucial. Just because you go to Knox doesn't mean that everyone at Knox in your cohort's going to help you out one day. Not the case at all. Because that's what they sort of sell you on, right? Connections you're going to build. I mean, god damn. I wouldn't give 3/4 of the year a job when I'm older. Like, no offense, boys. But like, God. Like, come on. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't give me one either. Like it's not the case. It's not the case, right? So you got to, you know, make friends. And if you're just going to be a robot hitting the books, I mean, I hope that you're doing something more creative. For example, programming a program, or something like that, or have an ambition to do so. Whereas if you're just going to be like an actuarian one day and just, you know, calculate the probability of someone crashing their car for an insurance company. Like, you know what I mean, Henry?
No, I do agree that we got to build as much connections as possible. And I feel like you're very great at that. I feel like you know a lot of kids in the year, not just, you know, the 40 kids, but a lot of like the you know, books kids. You just wave them hello every single time. And I'm like, damn, what a good guy.
Oh, look. It's just because, like, I mean, one of my best mates, Will Wang. Shout out Will Wang. Will Wang. Shout out Zizao. Shout out Zizao.
Yeah.
He'll be listening. I'll make him. But like, I met him in like year 7. He was as quiet as a church mouse. Yeah. I was just like, who is this kid? Like, let's go talk to him.
Will was telling me how he's like good friends with Freddie Harris, and I was like, that's so strange. Why would you be friends with Harry?
But he just turned out to be this actually quite a funny kid. Yeah. Just a funny kid. He was as dumb as a post back then. Same as me. We were in the same classes for years. And then he became very good at maths.
Yes, he did.
And, you know, me and him have had a great relationship all the way through. And I've got nothing to hold against him. And same with other kids in the year. It's just like, you know, a bunch of these kids are just normal kids. You talk to them, they are not that much different to you. And if they are, they're actually quite interesting. You know, they offer different perspectives on a bunch of things, and they're just quite, you know, honestly quite funny as well. Like, a lot of these guys are way better at cracking jokes than my mates. And so sometimes I just talk to them for a laugh as well. Yeah. Like, they'll just brighten my day a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, only the last couple years, I feel like with year 11, where, for example, the senior hall, it just brings everyone closer together. Yeah. I've learned to talk with a lot more different people. Yeah. And I realized that so many of these kids are so bloody special and nothing from what I thought they were. Like, for example, with you, I'm so happy that, you know, I can call you my friend, Freddie
Absolutely.
Harris. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you just absolutely blew my mind at just everything.
Oh,
and
thank you, Henry.
Thank you. Even bloody on this podcast, every single bloody second, I've just been captivated. I had no idea.
Thank you.
You are the best speaker I've ever heard.
Thank you. But look, I mean, friends make them. Like, win, lose, or draw. Again, the one thing I do hate, though, Henry, is actually the sort of term, like, making connections. Or, like, you know, like the connections you'll make in school or whatever. You know, being someone's making a friendship for the wrong reasons, I think, is actually something I do try and watch out for as well.
Okay, yeah.
For example, someone that just wants to make sure you're on their good side so that in the future that
right. Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Like connections for personal gain.
Yeah, personal gain.
Yeah.
That is something that does piss me off, that sort of culture of like, oh, okay, school captain, let's make friends with the person that might be school captain and hedge our bets on that friendship. So when he succeeds one day, he'll give me a job or something like that, or, you know, invest in my company.
Wow.
Don't be that guy. Just be a guy that's genuinely interested in people. And if you're not, don't be their friend. It's as simple as that. It's black and white. Okay, that's something that's binary. So if, like, for instance, if I'm friends with you, best believe that I'm friends with you because I like you as a person, not because I think there's going to be anything for personal gain on that. But yeah.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, like, I feel like in Australia, I mean, because we haven't really seen what other countries are like, but I think already here in Australia, everyone's very genuine.
Yeah.
Like, my sister, she's in the States, in college, and once she went over there, she realized that everyone are so kind of, how do you call it, like, deceptive, like
Fake.
Fake. They have something, they have a different agenda that they want to pursue, and it's not just a pure connection. And, you know, that kind of sucks.
It's funny that you say that, Henry, because in Australia, we are also notorious for tall poppy syndrome, which is like, for those who wouldn't know, tall poppy syndrome is like when someone's succeeding, everyone tries to bring them down, like behind the scenes, or talk bad about them because of their own sort of underlying insecurities.
Yeah.
So everyone will try and see the faults in other people in order to lift themselves up. And that's pretty well known in Australian society. But in terms of being genuine, I think that is absolutely correct. In like, my mates are my mates. Yeah. And the friends that I have, my great friends, I trust a lot, and I have a lot of trust in them. And they've seen a lot of, you know, the color to like my personal life and struggles in that. For example, like, you know, they've been over at my house and there'll be like a policeman there or something, and they'll be like, oh wow, okay, but they won't really bring anyone down for it. They'll lift me up. So for that I thank them, and that is something that I guess everyone wants in their circles.
Yeah, I think that having that fakeness, it will. Yeah, I do believe that it will bring you some success, but only in the short term. Yeah. I believe in karma. Yeah. It always come back. Yeah. You won't get very far because once you get there, once you gain that success and the people that you wronged realizes that you wronged them.
I mean, God, look at Vladimir Putin. Yeah. Jeez. The amount of people he's wronged, and what's it all doing? It's burning down like a big bridge. Yeah. I mean, also, like, I think my father said to me, he was like, you gotta be, there's this term in Succession that they use, you gotta be a killer. And he's like, I've met a lot of killers in my life, who just, you know, will chop people off by their knees to gain. They only will get that far, unless it's their own shop they're running, for example, like their own business. So those sorts of people who are just these narcissists who are going and hacking people down in order to pave the way for them to grow. Yeah. Does that translate into success? I'm not buying into that. I'm not buying into that one bit. You know, there's no, for example, JT and I, we're not discarding anything from each other or not sharing anything from each other. We're actually combining with each other, and it's serving us well in that aspect. Yeah. And that's been serving us well since we've started collaborating. And yeah, that's been a big attributor to my success. It's not been this killer sort of motive. But we only really started collaborating in year 12. I will say that. Or this term actually has been a trial run.
Yeah. And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, I would suggest collaborating with one or two people. Not everyone. That's a stupid game to play because you are competing. After trials, sure, but combined minds. Two minds are greater than one. Different perspectives as well. People see things differently. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And are you good?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
So in extension English, you know Machiavelli, the prince. Yeah. And what we focused on in class was just all about learning about deception, deceit, and the need for that to be a successful king. Yeah. And I thought about that a lot, and I was reflecting that I'm too nice of a person. I've always just, I guess, like to the degree that I'm a bit of a pushover. The fact that
pushover.
But
when have you been pushed over, Henry?
No.
When are these pushings over occurring?
No, I just feel like that, there's times that I think I could benefit myself, but then I think, oh, you know what? I'll just be a nice guy. I'll just let them take this opportunity.
Yeah.
And, I think that kind of messes with your success a little bit.
You do have to be selfish in some aspects.
Yeah.
Not at the detriment to others, but take the opportunities for yourselves. Because those people, when they take that position, are they benefiting you? And like, are they going, Henry, do this with me? Like, I'm going to take you under my wing or whatever. Are they doing that? Probably not. But those sort of Machiavellian philosophies, they are very, very like useful. I suppose in sort of predetermined social hierarchies. So when there's a social hierarchy in place that you're just in the cosmos of, those tactics in the wider stretch of things will allow you to gain those power. Whereas if you are sort of idiosyncratic in a way in your own sort of hierarchy, that's going to benefit you. Not being Machiavellian within your own sort of hierarchy that you may have created or that you're getting other people to buy into, or changing the sort of philosophy or fabric of those hierarchies. That's when you're going to see growth within the entire hierarchy as well. That's a very complicated way of explaining it. It's what I'm trying to say is when there's predetermined hierarchies, for example, like a job type setting,
in the corporate world, you're going to see a lot of Machiavellian archetypes.
Whereas if you're not in some big institutional, big business type corporate world, you're in, let's say, like your own startup, for instance, or just a different type of space. And those hierarchies may be a lot different because there's a different culture behind them. It's less of like an idiosyncratic, how far can one person succeed? It's more team orientated, group orientated. How far can the group succeed? And if you have Machiavellian sort of archetypes within those groups, they're like poison, kryptonite. No matter how great they are, if they are sort of, like I said, killers trying to chop everyone off by the knees, no matter how brilliant they are going to be a detriment to the longevity and how successful that group's going to be.
Yeah, so I think being both, you can't be, Machiavellian, but you got to be selfish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in our HSC journey, I think I was talking with Swari as well about this. Whether we should be, because we're told to be 100% transparent, collaborate with everyone, but then, prior to trials, that doesn't really make sense as well.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But having an additional mind of the same sort of capability as you, combining where you both add the same, is only going to be beneficial to you both, unless you're doing like a 5-man subject.
Yeah.
But in most subjects where there's like 100 people in a cohort or 50 people in a cohort or X, Y, and Z in a cohort, you collaborating with another person in order to jump up 10 ranks is going to be very beneficial. It only requires basic maths to realize that.
Yeah.
So that's when collaboration is key, but you got to be selfish. You're not going to you never do something that's going to benefit others without it benefiting yourself first. Sounds like a sin saying that, but you're the only guy in this world, man.
Yeah. It's
you versus the world. It's quite ironic that I'm saying this on Easter when Jesus is sacrificed. He's given everything for, whatever. But look, it's only you in the world, and you gotta take care of yourself first. Take care of others by all means, but take care of yourself first, man. Not try and maintain that moral sort of compass of not to the detriment of others. Anyway, so I guess supposing back to that Machiavellian type world, what do you think?
What do I think?
In terms of, like, I guess the social hierarchies, for instance, at Knox, like you can see, for example, being at the senior center, which for those who wouldn't know, is like a collaborative sort of learning environment that the school is sort of like manufactured and has worked greatly for them. You overhear conversations, especially in year 11, of all these types of people when the leadership sort of thing was really rolling, and all these people just trying to hack at other people, going, you know, this person can't do this, or trying to sort of screw over other people. I saw it a lot, you know, even to staff members, people going, oh, really? That guy?
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And it happens. Like, it just naturally forms because I guess, not to discredit the school's program they got going there, because it's incredible.
Yeah.
But like, it does sort of manufacture that for that Machiavellian within people.
Do you think these leadership roles, you reckon?
When people were trying to gain them, not so much when they got the roles, but in that year 11, it's very like antsy. It's like, God, you know, how you're competing against other people. How can I benefit myself potentially by dragging others down?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, but I do believe that Knox, you know, protects against that by having so many leadership positions.
yeah, they definitely account for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like some other schools. I'm not sure how the schooling systems work, but they might, I think, just have a few, like 10 prefects or something.
Yeah, the portfolios of
And-
other schools are only a few captains.
Yeah, so that would definitely be a lot more competitive.
Absolutely. But you also have to realize that Knox, in my opinion, trains more than any other school boys to be sort of the corporate man. So, for example, I've got a lot of friends in other schools, and it's a riot. It's an absolute riot in those schools. It's like, you know, they don't really do much, or they do a little, but they just do whatever they really want.
Yeah.
And whereas Knox, it's like they put a lot of pressure on academics. They sort of subliminally message that this is the way you have to be, and you pick up on it, and it's great because you're succeeding and the end goal is there. It's a beautiful sort of structure. But for example, at Knox, a lot of these, say 90% of the year, I would think, are going to be salarymen, suit and tie, going into the CBD, or you know, a doctor, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And Knox sort of trains you in that aspect. You know, the school uniform goes on, and people sort of, you know, you see how many watches go on at the school. I mean, how many people tell the time from those watches? Not many.
Yeah.
Not many. And you have the embroidered blazers, and people really have this stature about them, and they sort of buy into it, which is great. It's great, but it creates sort of like a corporate culture, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like beneficial because it you know, gets the kids ready for what the real world is like.
Absolutely.
But yeah, why do you think it's not such a great thing?
Well, no, I do, because I see what, for example, mates in other schools are doing.
Yeah.
And it's like they're not really trained up for like the world as soon as they jump in.
Yeah.
And university is a shambles. I mean, like, you're going in a hoodie to a lecture, no one's keeping you accountable.
Yeah.
But whereas in Knox, it's sort of like you've almost got a job in a way. It seems like it, because you're going to classes, you're really attentive. It's a very regimented day, as with all schools, but it just has this feel about it where it's almost like you're a professional already. And I think it almost trains people up in the right way. It's like people, for example, the leadership structure is going to be great for how people will conduct themselves in interviews, because of how many interviews they've done, or public speaking, all these sorts of programs that the school has got going, the different portfolios. Those are all manufactured so that post-schooling, those Knox people actually succeed.
Yeah.
Whereas in other schools, it's like, all right, I'm just going to play footy, or I'm going to do like this thing, or I'm going to do this. And it's like, they don't really have that importance of like, wow, I want to get a leadership role. I want to do cadets. And it's not like there's that, you know, most schools, people that do cadets are immediately outcasted as weird people.
Yeah.
Or people that go for leadership roles. I mean, I know at a school like Barker, I've got a few friends that go there. I mean, like, they think that leadership roles are like too, like, try hard. Like,
Really?
they don't want to go for them for
Wow.
fear of being almost outcasted. I mean, it's completely different. So Knox has created this great culture.
Yeah.
And I think that buying into it is the right thing.
Yeah, I guess it is, thinking about it, you know, since studying like at 1984s and stuff, it is more restrictive of all the boys, but I guess just that's just how the way the world works.
Yeah.
It's just very coordinated 9 to 5. You just work and work and work.
Yeah. And it's only in that for like the last 2 years of school, and it's all this pressure that is applied. But people always think pressure is a bad thing or stress is a bad thing. I mean, we see the charts in school. It's not a bad thing. There is good stress. There is good stress. It's good to have those regimented days. I mean, I think Jordan Peterson, he says without routines, the human mind completely capitulates. You need regimented routines. Within discipline, there is freedom. That's what I believe. Again, that sounds pretty 1984-ish. But Orwellian. But yeah, no, it is true that like the routines that Knox builds, the sort of regimented lifestyle allows a lot of kids to flourish. And for example, the great leaders within our school are like, they are now like what an employer immediately wants to see in a young man. They don't need much more developing in terms of like roughing the edges. They're already sort of like a good product.
Yeah, and so going back to what you said about being like Machiavellian, I'm just realizing now that I guess Knox is actually very smart about their system. Because they can't tell the kids that, you gotta, chop the legs off of this person to succeed. But I think they know that this is how the real world works. So
it's completely unintentional. That's just a byproduct of a system. That's just human behavior. That's just human behavior, the inner workings of human behavior. Knox is never, or a school never manufactures a structure to do that. But yeah, Knox, everything that a school like Knox does is very thought out and planned. It's to achieve certain things. It's not just there for the purpose of being there. And I guess realizing what that is, you don't want to fight against the system. That's a system you want to buy into, and that's a good thing to realize. The systems you want to buy into and systems you want to break. Knox has created a system where if you buy into it, you're going to achieve a lot of success. You're going to get a huge kickstart to life. And that's where, going back to like the eshay thing, the kids that drop out, I'm like, God damn man. Or kids that aren't using Knox their full potential, I'm like, God damn man. I mean, geez, you couldn't pick a better school to get a head start. Like, we're like the best non-selective boys school in terms of results. And geez, man, if you have the funds, or if you're extremely bright and get a scholarship, like you have everything at your disposal. Like, go for it.
Yeah, and I think Knox is just so amazing. I didn't even realize until recently. For example, those selective schools like James Roos and stuff, from the get-go, they just breed kids of just going tutoring and just working. But they don't focus on all these other aspects, for example, like assembly, like chapel, things like that, and like leadership programs, which before I would think they're just a waste of time. They just use up time when we could be studying and getting better results. But those selective schools aren't building up kids of, I think, life skills.
Well, also Knox aims to, I suppose, they sort of try and prop up, like, to everyone's benefit. They try and prop up your resume as much as possible. Like, they're going, man, this guy killing it in cadets. Like, make a cadet culture, get a lot of people getting those cadet ranks, getting a lot of people the black tie, getting a lot of people these roles, get people's resumes built up. Because what are you handing into your boss? A resume. And there's a lot of people that would have done your uni degree. What's going to get you the interview are probably those extracurriculars. And when you have those extracurriculars, then comes the interpersonal skills where you do have to sell yourself in that interview. And
and I think about those interpersonal skills, it's like one thing that a little bit stresses me out. How before in year 7 to 10 we had a ban on mobile phones. We weren't allowed to use them in recess or lunch. But now, since in year 11 and 12, they're like, oh, yeah, freedom. But I feel like that rule of banning them was actually a good idea. Because it trains kids to actually communicate. And right now, from what I found with a lot of my friends, is like during recess and lunch, when we should be like chatting and stuff, they're just on their phones because they
really?
yeah, because they can. Oh yeah, it might be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of sucks.
No, yeah,
So,
I absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, with my mates, yeah, we're all chatting away.
Yeah.
And it is a great shame if you're not communicating with your mates, or
Yeah.
they're just so transfixed within just these short-term like study regimes or whatever, and just having to just focusing on the next thing, or don't really want to see their mates. I mean, humans are a social species. Like, for God's sake, talk to your friends. Like, have a laugh with them.
Yeah.
I mean, what beauty is there to life if you're just working towards these goals? Because I'll tell you, despite how good it feels to get a great mark, I mean, geez, I have a lot of fun with my friends. And that's sort of, it's a lot sweeter to get a good mark and then go out with my friends to celebrate.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a very sweet thing. And, you know, Henry, to your circle, I'd say, like, just, you know, lift your head a little bit higher. Like, see sort of the wider range of life. That to me, you know, is the beauty in it.
Like, for example, well, yeah, no, one thing, like a speech I saw, you know, like valedictorians.
Yeah.
There was a speech and he won it, but then in the YouTube video, in his speech, he talked about how it was all kind of for nothing.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really enjoy the other aspects of life.
Yeah.
And just working was just pointless because,
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
exactly.
yeah, life is so much more than just hitting the books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And hitting the books is only going to get you so far. Hitting the books is only going to get you so far. I was speaking to a mate, and he's a very bright spark, this boy. And he was talking to me about how he was doing computer programming for schools,
Nice.
for like unis, and talking to professors in the UK
Wow.
and everything. I was like, whoa, you know, geez. But at the same time, taking a lot of initiative. A lot of people would pass this kid off for perhaps a robot, like just a kid who just hits the books completely. Not the case. He's doing a lot of extra stuff. You know, being very, having a lot of initiative, being very adaptive, creative. You know, those sorts of guys, big thumbs up to. At the same time, and I know this kid went to an 18th and everything and had a good time there, so he's not just flat out.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, make sure you lift your head up, man, and enjoy your youth. I mean, geez, man.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, really, really have a minute to think about it. When you're 40 years old, you're not partying your brains out, or you're not really having fun with your mates. I mean, even post school, I mean, mates really shrink up, and I get really sad about that.
Yeah,
a
no,
lot.
I was thinking about that as well.
I get very sad about that when I think, man, a lot of my mates, hopefully I stay, you know, real close to them, and I'm probably going to go on a gap year to the UK, and that's, you know, hopefully when I come back, they're all still there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of sad though, how our friendship circles that we take for granted, that we see every single day at school, we probably won't see them again.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I mean, especially if, for example, as you're describing, some people, like, they probably, for example, Henry, in the holidays, are your mates, like, the ones that you've texted, they just don't want to go out?
They're just like, oh, I'll have to see. I got to do a lot of maths.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
see.
it just sucks.
Exactly. You just
Yeah.
got to go, hey, man. That's what I would do. Even though, I mean, sometimes we'll know it's like talking to a brick wall. It's just never going to go through.
Yeah.
It's like talking to a brick wall.
Yeah.
Just got to go, look, man, what are you doing? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And even just those, you know, saying hi to someone I kind of know across like the hallways. Those are like good moments, you know.
It makes a lot of
Yeah.
people's day, I
Yeah.
think. I think it makes a lot of people's day. Just
Yeah.
being a nice dude. I mean, geez, there's a lot of people that say I'm not a nice guy, probably, but
Nah, no way.
but
Yeah.
like, just at least conducting yourself where you're not, you know, discriminatory, or you neglect others, or you think you're better than others. That's something I hate. So, like, I know a lot of people that look at someone and just go, oh, I'm better than them for X, Y, and Z. They're beneath me, therefore I won't talk to them.
Yeah.
F those people. Because what are they to others? And they're going to be wanting others to look at them, you know, and take them under their wing.
Yeah.
I mean, screw those guys. So
yeah.
my big point is never be that guy that looks at someone and thinks negatively and think they're not worthy of your time. Because, I mean, pretty much everyone is. Pretty much everyone.
And yeah, when we graduate and a lot of the good memories slip away, another door opens.
Yeah, fork in the road.
Fork in the road.
Yeah, fork in the road. I mean, there's a whole web of, different possibilities, different choices you make, and different paths your life can take you. I mean, every day. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll come on this podcast and tomorrow I'll wake up a superstar. Like, who knows, really? Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. So you talked about your gap year that you want to take.
Yeah.
What else after school are you hoping to
gap year, I just want to get out. Spend a whole year studying. I want to go see the world.
Hell yeah.
I want to go see the world, go to Europe, just live a little before I go and bunker down in uni. Because when I'm in uni, like I said, I'd like to try and make little, at least projects with computer science, programming, and just try and, make something. Because you got all the time in the world at uni, really. You got a lot of time. I'll be working, but how many days will I be full on in classes? Not that many. Yeah. So I have a lot of time to spare. So I'd like to just, explore a little.
Do you have any aspirations on where you want to be by a certain age?
Yeah. I'm incredibly ambitious, Henry. So forgive, I'll forgive you if you just laugh. But
no, I love it,
mate. Billionaire by 30.
Hell yeah.
Have all the money in the world.
Yes,
just
sir.
be the man. Like live it as fast paced as you can. Obviously billionaire sounds like a huge exaggeration, but like I'd like to have money where I can enjoy it, with the fruits of my labor. I think there's no point, for example, why I wouldn't want to live a linear type landscape or life is because I wouldn't want in myself to be enjoying what I've put years into at 55 years old. Yeah. There's no point having a holiday then. I want to live an exponential life, win, lose or draw. If it takes me to 40 and I live on the breadcrumb till 40 and then I make it big when I'm 40, so be it.
Wow.
So be it. Like
you don't want to settle. You have to get the best.
No, because man, I'm living a life here, one life, okay? And like as far as I'm aware, I'm not getting a second chance. Yeah. So I might as well go as hard as I can.
Wow, yeah. Forbes 30 under 30.
Forbes 30 under 30, mate. Forbes
Freddie
30
Harris,
under 30.
we'll see.
Hopefully.
In a few
Hopefully.
years.
I mean, who knows what it will be in.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are your ambitions?
Oh yeah, I mean, like you, just become rich as fuck like one day. Yeah, but now do you see a new movie recently called Tick Tick Boom?
No, I see it.
Yeah, I have it written down. It's like it's a musical movie. Andrew Garfield.
Yeah,
he's in it. Yeah, and it's a story about this guy called Jonathan Larson. And do you know the musical Rent?
No.
Well, it's a famous. I don't know musicals, but yeah, that one's a famous one. And he's basically just this grand, writer who made these big shows on Broadway. And the movie's just all about him. Yeah. And the story sets of him being 29 and him stressing his brains out that next week he'll be 30 and he hasn't gotten on Broadway yet. He hasn't reached to where he wants to be. And yeah, that's quite like a scary thought because we're already almost 18, which is actually so old. Well, it feels like already.
You have to think about it though, Henry. Yeah. We have our lifetime and a bit more, our entire lifetime and a bit more, and then we're 40. I mean, imagine how much you can accomplish in 20 years. Even 10. I mean, 10 years ago, I was 7 years old. I was 7. I was 7 years old. Yeah. Okay, 10 years from now, I'll be 27. Imagine what I could do in 10 years. Like, just entertain the thought at least. It's like, geez, man. Like, you can do so much. Like, Gary Vee, as cringe as it is, like, age, dude, you only have to look about how much you've lived thus far to realize how much more you can live. Sorry, that doesn't really make sense. but how much more time there is
Yeah.
in order to succeed.
Yeah, Gary Vee always says how when someone says that they're 40, he always says that, oh, they're so young. And
Yeah,
they have so
exactly.
much
And it
bloody
sort of
time,
just trips. It's like, what are you talking about? But
Yeah.
dude, like, imagine if like they stop working at 60. You got another, you know, half of what you've had in your lifetime to go. And I mean, Colonel Sanders, he made it late.
Yeah.
Like McDonald's, he made it late. Like, there's so many stories of like people making it late. So many stories.
Yeah.
So I'd also suggest just reading up on success stories. That's what I do a lot. Like
Nice.
the big killers in the world. I mean, barely any of them have had linear lives. Barely any of them. I mean, I think it was Kevin O'Leary, the guy from Shark Tank, that said there's twice as many failures as there is for every success that he's had. And that's something that everyone gets bogged down on. I mean, you praising me at the start of the podcast, I mean, geez, like, wow. Because the way I think is like how many failures or shortcomings I have. That's how I reflect on myself rather than how well I've performed.
Yeah. I do agree that you need a certain amount of failures to get success. To get that win, you have to go through like a certain amount, a big number, only to get the success. So.
And then it's, I mean, how much sweeter is that?
Yeah.
It's a lot sweeter. I mean, geez, imagine if your life was just perfect. It wouldn't be that much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just, were you talking about how some people have to be, 40, 50 to become successful? And that just sucks to think about because we might still take a really long time and go through so many years of just hard work.
Yeah.
And not be able to make it.
I mean, you can never think like that. I would be happy dying on my deathbed knowing I gave it absolutely everything.
Wow.
Like, as long as I did, because I would be in instant regret if I was on my deathbed and I never really went for it. Like, just go for it. Who cares?
You don't care whether you get the W or not.
I mean, obviously I care
you do.
completely about that. But I fear more about not trying. Okay? And obviously I got to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, but I'll be doing everything in my power to be able to live out my dreams.
Yeah. And you're a firm believer that you want to create that own destiny. You don't want to have like your parents just handing you the stuff.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's another big thing. Like, for example, with my company, if I start it one day, I won't take a father handout, a grandfather, a mother. I won't take a handout for that. I truly do want to make it on my own.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, get involved in nepotism, those sorts of things. Like, I do want to just make it on my own. And it's hard. I mean, I'm already immediately discredited almost for going to Knox.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's what you make of it. I mean, I couldn't choose where I went to school, could I? I guess I could, but I'm at Knox.
Yeah.
That's just where I was born. Like, I was born into a privileged life, but I don't want to just continually get head starts. I want to at least show people that if you can at least get the HSC mark or get that degree, to kick your life off in the right direction, that through that, then you can do this.
And do you think that any of that stems from that one day you have to, pay back your parents?
Pay back my parents? I mean, yeah. What I've always told my mum is I'll buy her a nice big house for her to kick her feet up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't think my mum, she's a very iron-willed lady. She's extremely, I don't think she would even accept a repayment in a way.
Yeah.
She's a very stoic woman. And she's probably where most of my discipline and all those sorts of things come, because I'd throw in the towel a million times before my mum does, as I've said before.
Yeah.
And that, her keep on going, that's what inspires me. I mean, she was out of the workforce for many years because of a marriage and then another marriage. And now all of a sudden she's back into it and she's really succeeding. But it took many interviews, many failures, many times where I thought, Mum, I just don't think it might cut it anymore. And now she's killing it.
Hell yeah.
Killing it. And I'm just like, damn. And then she's still trying with my younger siblings. still pushing. You know,
Wow.
credit to her. Like, she's the lady.
Hell yeah. Dude, your family's so inspirational. And
Yeah.
they must have, yeah, they 100% played a massive part to your life.
I mean, my mum and my dad always gave me a lot of self-esteem growing up in my formative years.
Mm-hmm.
So that is probably why I can talk or be as confident as I am, because my mum and dad always said, you know, you're great, Fred, you're this, you're that.
Dude, that's awesome.
Although it seems like they're just inflating a big ego, it's maybe not feel insignificant or have low self-esteem, which is far worse than having a big ego, in my opinion.
Dude, that's so good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, being able to compliment someone, being able to build someone up, I think that's a huge skill that all of us have to take on.
I'm glad that
yeah.
Also, like, my mates build each other up. That's something that I really appreciate. Seeing other people build each other up in my circles, I am always thankful for, and that's what makes, like, my mates and I, why you see a lot of us perhaps succeeding in all these areas, is because everyone is sort of like a band of brothers. So that is, Dude,
that's awesome. Going on to, like, a bit of the opposite end, do you think that there's been any, like, toxic people in your life that you've found to be the case? Yeah.
Absolutely. Toxic people everywhere. I mean, even within friendship groups or whatever, there's always going to be people that feel insignificant. That's really what toxic people come down to.
Yeah.
It's those who just need a leg up and they have low self-esteem. And you almost do have to feel bad for them, but at the same time, like, how can you?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you're speaking from, like, an omniscient perspective if you're going, oh yeah, feel bad for them and, like, try and, like, change them or whatever. Not really. I mean, they're pricks if they're being toxic. You got to realize, like, pricks are pricks. I remember in, like, my junior years in, like, prep school, I had this mate still at the school, won't name him. He can figure it out for himself. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you after, but yeah, it was just a prick.
Yeah.
And people think he's a prick. And those sorts of people, like, everyone sees it, everyone knows about it, no one trusts them. And like, you just have to put it together. I mean, you being in, like, quite academic circles, do you just see, as I've heard, the extension to maths rumors of people just sabotaging each other or leading each other in wrong directions? Are you seeing that a lot?
I feel like I haven't seen that much, like, sabotaging, but there's definitely a little bit of, like, kind of fakeness, hiding some stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
To not, give everyone else the advantage.
Like, I've heard that people have, like, literally skewed people in the wrong directions for assessments and things like that. Or in,
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, but those are only rumors, but I hear of those things and I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah.
But I guess at the top end, I mean, extension 2 maths is the be all end all. Like, that is the zone of the geniuses. It must just, I suppose, if you get a relatively bad mark in extension 2 test, you think perhaps you might be an idiot or something, right? Like, whereas you don't really put it in perspective that you are, like, the best students in the school of maths. That's what I think as well. It's like, sometimes in my group, everyone will be, like, screaming a mark in a test, and people will be doing, and I've realized that my group actually might be pretty high up on the scale of ranks.
Yeah.
And then I think, wow, I might have not gotten that mark, so I must be stupid now. But really, you see your rank and you're like, well, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I guess those circles sort of warp your sense of reality and perspective.
Yeah. I think in the top end, there is always that little bit of that toxic competition, which will come up, I think, naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just important to just not give a fuck about them,
Yeah.
Like,
you gotta keep your head screwed on and know who you are as a man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, geez, I haven't heard anyone say that the people in school have always turned out to be the people who are successful. The successful people in school always turning out that way. Rarely the case. You always hear the stories of people coming up out of nowhere after school, or people steep decline after school, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, I think, there's so many people who are just, their mindset is only fixated on school, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that might bring about that toxicity of I have to get this mark. But then once the HSC finishes, maybe they don't have anything else in their life. They're like, what do I do?
Yeah, identity crises. I mean, I've had them enough times. And I think that's probably going to be a big hitter after the HSC. You're going to see, like, that's probably the 19 years old final teenage hurdle. Reshaping your identity, especially with things like rugby as well. I mean, first 15 is like the epitome in school, and unless you're going on to play for Australia, like it really just like rocks a lot of kids' boats post school.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on rugby as well. Like, what do you think like is the driver for so many kids? Because I was thinking as well, pursuing a sport, it's great and all, but unless you're going out to play professionally, you won't really get anything out of it.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point. For me, enjoyment. I like playing. I've got mates that play it. We all have fun together. And then seeing each other that night after Saturday when you're all battered and bruised, it's quite a communal feeling. And that's great. But I think like in the junior sort of formative years, a lot of pressure to play footy just comes from like what family you grow up in. Like a lot of the dads or whatever, they played first 15 at school and stuff like that. They played high level rugby. And some of these kids are like, whew, okay. My dad didn't. He was actually a footballer. But then also the kids just love it. And I guess there's something primal in a game of rugby about you, right? Like you're bashing each other up. And it's just letting out that sort of inner aggression and that competitive drive. And that, of course, as I've mentioned earlier, translates sort of into the classroom.
And I think, so before you said there was toxicity in the rugby field.
Oh, not toxicity. Not toxicity. That competitive nature is just the way a competitive sport works. The guy next to you who you're competing against, you're going to have to, when you're on that field, you're going to have to try and, poleaxe him. You're going to have to try and really hit that guy as hard as you can. And really, like, you don't care about your mates in that setting if you're, like, competing against them. But once you're in the team, then you protect them with your body, right? You protect them, in front of everything else. And then you're a cohort. Like, for example, when I used to play Barker or other schools, and I had mates in the opposite team, and they'd get into a scuffle, I'd be the first guy over to, like, give them a shove, whatever, like, talk in their face, whatever. Despite if they're mates or if I'm mates with them or not, because when you're in that moment, it's you against them. And afterwards, everyone's cool. It's not toxic, awesome. It's just competitive. And everyone realizes that sort of etiquette about it.
And do you think, rugby's always been a big part of your life? And you reckon that competitiveness, it was definitely brought about as well by rugby?
I think it was always there before. Rugby was just a place where it was expressed. Because there's plenty of kids who play rugby and in the classroom or whatever who aren't aspirational in rugby. They just play it, or they aren't this and just do it. I mean, I would say in my years now, like, I'm not that aspirational to play great level of rugby because firstly, the riddling with school just makes me lose a lot of weight and stuff. So it's hard. But it's just, I can't really focus on, as I've said before, too many things. But I play it, I train every day, I love it. But some kids can brilliantly multitask rugby in school. Brilliantly, effortlessly. And we've got some amazing talents in the rugby program as well. I mean, Archie Saunders, an Australian level player, Jaron McLeod, probably going to play NRL post school. Some brilliant athletes. So it's hard to obviously match up with those guys, right? Like, you've got some extremely quality players.
But for your case, you know that you can fly so much higher.
Exactly. It's like, even with something like professional rugby, I probably wouldn't even want to play it because it's not that much money in it, believe it or not. No, unless you're at the top end, like, you're not earning that much money. Like, genuinely. It's not like football or basketball. Like, the top end earns like 1.3 mil a year. Whether it's in the NBA, the top guy's earning like 50 mil a year. So with rugby, I don't know. It's like, then it sets you back 10, 15 years on your career once you're post footy. And then it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, that's true.
So there's all those things you got to consider as well.
Yeah.
But for example, a kid like Archie or a kid like Jao, they are actually like genuinely quality players. Like genuinely could go far, like at the bookends. But I think in my life, it's like, you know, first of all, not good enough. Second of all, like tough, real tough. I mean, I hate training, believe it or not.
Really?
I mean, it takes the life out of you, man. It takes the life out of you.
Yeah.
But love playing.
Yeah. I was just thinking as well. You know, when I have my kid, I was thinking I want to just chuck him into a sport and just discipline them so much and just push them to like the highest level possible. And then when they reach a level, you know, they'll have like such a strong mind, they can throw away the sport and then just direct that into something else, like studies and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I believe that there's like a correlation between those two aspects.
I mean, look, sports in its essence is just competition. It's seeing which, you know, let the best man win.
Yeah.
And those people that really buy into sports, you know, they are naturally competitive people.
Yeah.
And that natural competition, if they want to do well in something, they will compete to do well. Won't necessarily mean they will do well, but they will compete. And it's a competitive world.
Yeah.
It's a competitive world. So that's why, you know, again, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I mean, you can tell your kid you want him to do sport, but he may not take to it. He may just not be naturally competitive. I have another brother who's just not competitive at all by nature. He just likes to do his own thing, be a team player. And that's him. And that's just the way a lot of people work. And he's not like aspirational. He just wants to do his own thing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. We can do a little cut. But
sure.
Yeah. Was there anything else?
No, I'm happy to wrap.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just have like a few like final questions.
Okay.
Like
cool.
Rapid questions.
Yeah.
And just like with a phrase or like, well, yeah, just like in a sentence, a few sentences. Just what do you think? So, first question: what is one thing you're struggling the most at right now in your life?
Okay. Probably being like nice to like my immediate family in my home. Like just being like a sort of pleasant guy to live with, because I can get pretty hot and bothered at times, or just like really transfixed, or like not wanting to talk to people or shut off. Like taking time out of my day to see how people are going, interacting positively all the time. Is something I would want to try and work on.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that as well. Yeah. What do you? Well, yeah, I probably know the answer, but what is the single most important thing in your life right now?
Yeah, well, at the moment, it'd have to be academics.
Yeah.
How could you say it's not at this very point in my life?
What about the second thing?
Second thing, I don't think there's a number two.
Yeah.
It's just that.
I respect that. Yeah. I think that's the right mindset to have.
Yeah.
Just full throttle.
Yeah.
HSC. Yeah. This is a big one. What is your biggest regret so far in life?
I don't really know. Like,
you're pretty happy.
Like, I think everything that I've done wrong, I've gained experience from, and I've learned a lesson from, and that's actually how I genuinely conduct my life.
Yeah.
Like every time I do fail or have shortcomings, I genuinely do reflect on it deeply. So regrets, not really. I mean, they're all stuff I'll never do again. So in that way, it's a positive.
Dude, that's awesome. So, going back, you wouldn't do anything differently, you think?
I mean, sure. Would I have wanted to be an eshay back in the day? Probably not, but hey.
But it made you who you are.
Exactly.
Today.
Exactly. Like, I think with every shortcoming, there's a lesson.
Wow. Yeah. And you do a lot of reflecting.
I do, just naturally. Not like I don't just meditate, but I do meditate on things like in that, not like Buddhist style, but for example, if I am in a shower, going to bed, driving somewhere, I'm thinking, reflecting. That's a lot of what I do.
Yeah, from what we talked about, with the school system, cadets, your rugby, I can tell that you've taken a lot of thought into these systems and how they, function and what they're meant to do to all our lives. And
I think
that's quite amazing.
I think I could sort of think of two things at once in a way. Like I'm sort of doing activities or out and I'm sort of thinking or stuff sort of percolating in the back of my mind and piecing sort of things together and they sort of form into opinions.
Wow. And you would just do that in the shower while you're going on a walk?
Yeah, driving. Just stuff like that. Like that. It's just stuff that's... Or I just have an epiphany at certain intervals throughout the day.
So in those thinking sessions, do you think for your future ahead on how you're going to attack these certain problems in your life?
Look, I always sort of, I guess, have the humility to realize that there's going to be a lot more failures to come and there's going to be it's not going to be a linear path and that I just got to experience them to know what it is. And also having the ability to realize that like you're not, shit hot as well. Like, I mean, geez, there's a lot more faults than I have, great attributes about myself. There's a lot of shortcomings and a lot of people are going to see those and, definitely try and exploit them. And that's not going to reverberate well for me, but that's just going to happen. You just got to realize that those things do occur.
Yeah. You're already accepting of it.
Yeah, no, but it's just about moving forward, keeping your head up. Things will come. Your time will come.
Would you say you're already used to like dealing with problems? You don't see them as a huge mountain that you got to cross. You just see, it's just another activity that I just got to push forward with.
I think naturally I'm pretty good at problem solving, like in day-to-day life. So I can normally sort of compartmentalize things and realize what I have to do. And I do need to think about things quite a bit. For example, if you get a bad mark in a test, I need a few days to sort of think about it and go, what's this going to do? Because immediately you're like, boom, life's ruined or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, boom, whoa. Okay? Not like that.
Yeah.
Okay? And you just have to realize what you got to do better and just put things in a little bit of perspective. Talk it out as well. Talking it out. I talk it out with a lot of people and I have great confidence in that.
Yeah. Do you ever overthink?
Absolutely. Reckon? Consistently. Always. Yeah. Absolutely.
You just dramatize things over?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you ask, for example, Miss Cow, if I overthink, she'll just laugh. Because I'm always overthinking.
Really?
Always. Yeah. I mean, after every time we're getting our marks back, I'm like, oi, do you reckon you could give it to me in private? Every time I do a test, I can almost remember what I've written and I can remember the flaws within it. I'm like, God, I'm stuffed. Stuffed. And I'll get it back and it'll be all right. So I'm always overthinking, but it's all right to overthink. It's okay. It sucks, but it's okay.
Yeah, I always overthink so much. Even just the tiniest thing, just a small interaction. I just think about, I just did this. Why did that person, think of me like this or whatever?
Yeah, I can only imagine when I go home tonight with this podcast, I'll be kicking myself going, fuck, should have said this, shouldn't have said this. But it is what it is.
But yeah, you reckon it's like, it's fine. And that's something you've just been accepting of.
Yeah.
It's just who you are.
It's just who I am. What you see on the package is what you get. Like, there's not much more to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. I'll be more accepting of myself as well with that.
Yeah.
All right, another question. So, in our current society, what is something that you just do not like, and how will you change it?
Wow. What I actually don't like, it's quite deep and weird, but I don't like the way we value how much someone's worth. So the way wages are like sort of calculated.
Mhm.
People who are incredibly productive, efficient, whatever, doesn't necessarily correspond into how much they will earn. You know, there's a lot of nepotism going around. Whole lot of nepotism. People just getting jobs out of nowhere, making money even though they're not really worth that much
Yeah.
in terms of their like output. So what I would want to do is try and sort of correct that and try and see like what you produce or what you are able to, you know, produce as a person is what you shall receive in your income. Like is each according to his worth, is each according to his ability. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I get you, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
like, yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in our world, it's all about making those connections with people
Exactly.
and having that kind of upper edge over someone else.
Yeah, people are in high, like middle management positions, higher up positions, and they're really just bozos.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people are going to get jobs at like from our year group who may, you know, never have worked as hard as, for example, you or I, but might be earning twice as much because he knows people within the circuits, because his dad knows someone or his dad does this or something like that, and they just sort of cut their way through life and earn great money. And it's like, you shouldn't. The guy who busted his balls for 5 years, he should be earning the cash. Look what he's producing for this company. He should be earning that, not you.
But I guess so there was a book of why someone becomes successful. I forgot what it was called. And one of the things was having that initial upper advantage. For example, wealthy family, having these connections, and then also like working hard.
Yeah.
You know, what's the guy who made Snapchat? What's his name?
Spiegel or something?
Oh yeah, so yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I forgot.
yeah. Anyways, so he came from like a very wealthy family as well.
Yeah.
Went to a grade school, you know, straight away.
Yeah.
So people can argue that it's because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're an entrepreneur, you are what you're worth, right? Like what your company is worth is what you're worth as a person. So that I think is incorrect. What I'm talking about is like, for instance, if I come out of school and daddy has a job lined up for me and I take that job and I'm instantly earning more than the guy who busted his gut next to me in school but didn't have that, and he just had to go through the grueling interview phase and everything and is producing way more for the company than I am, yet I'm getting a bigger salary. That's the flaw.
Yeah.
That's the flaw in the society.
Do you think you have an answer to how?
I've got an answer, but not on here.
Okay, yeah. Got you.
That's where the billions are going to come from, Henry.
Yes, I got you.
Oh, no, but yeah. I mean, someone I actually do talk about it quite at length with is, my economics teacher. Because we were discussing, I mean, teachers incredibly underpaid. She earns as much as the librarian, and she's probably 50 times more productive and adds 50 times more worth than she does, or like a librarian would then. So that, I think, is a fatal flaw.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that never crossed my mind, but
Yeah, I mean,
wow, yeah, no, that is quite shocking.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, reading my so I'm like studying for the SAT, and a lot of the extracts that they have are just these like politicians in like the 60s or 70s, 80s, of, you know, discussing like gender rights and stuff.
Yeah.
And they argue how it should be a person's ability on their skill, or the ability that they have on the certain task, rather than, you know, male or female, or in this case, whether you come from a wealthy family or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things like the pay gap with the system that would, it would eliminate discrimination. Those sorts of, anything that can discriminate what you are able to produce.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can create a system that will solve that problem.
Hopefully one day we will.
In
the near future. All right, we'll go last question.
All right.
I guess, what is one piece of advice you would give to everyone listening?
One piece of advice is, well, never look back. never look back, never look side to side, always look in front. Always look in front, and never take any notice of other people talking anything, talking shit about you, or just don't, like I always say, like, don't give a fuck what people think. Just do. You do you, and things are going to work out all right for themselves. And although I haven't really put it to the test as much as someone who's 50 years old, you're damn right I'm going to experiment with it. Like, don't compromise yourself for others. Be your own man or woman. Be yourself. That's my one piece of advice.
Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
I got chills.
Yeah. Thank you.
But, I've extremely enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Conversation with you, Freddie.
Thank
I
you.
learned so much.
Thank you.
I can say it's the best episode so far.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
well, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm so happy that you even came up to me and said that you wanted to.
Oh, absolutely.
Hop on the podcast.
I mean, I love what you're doing here. I think it's awesome.
You.
Taking the initiative, putting yourself out there as well. I mean, who knows? People could have just gone, "You're an idiot for doing it."
Yeah.
But mate. Anyone who takes the leap forward got my respect instantly. So props to you, mate.
Thank you, Freddie. Yeah, I learned so much in this conversation, and hopefully, one day there'll be a part 2.
Hopefully, it might be episode 1500 on the Rogan.
Yeah.
But
when you get featured on the 30 under 30, your name's on there, and then you'll come back.
I'll come for 20s hurdles.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But once again, hope everybody really enjoyed that, because I definitely really did. This is it's been 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might cut this in to a part 1 and part 2, but yeah. Anyways, thank you once again. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok @TeenageHurdles. Give it a 5-star review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening, because it extremely helps a lot. And I just really hope you learned something. And this is Teenage Hurdles podcast. My name is Henry.
This is Fred.
And we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Alright, sick.
Shit. I couldn't stop. Thank you.